What's up?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome everyone. Hello friends and welcome to the Armchair Developers Talk Show, episode 3. I am your host, Mouse X. I'll be delving into all things gaming related to some lighthearted things thrown into the mix. I want my guests and my co-hosts to introduce themselves. Just leave Belmont take it away.
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Just Lee Belmont, your noble vampire hunter. I started streaming about a year ago on Twitch. I do a lot of retro gaming. I started playing video games when I was 1 year old. I'd say my proudest accomplishment playing a video game was beating the original Donkey Kong Country with the controller upside down. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And my favorite streamer, I'm gonna change it up each week. So this week, my favorite streamer is Apple For You. She's a Castlevania Order of Ecclesia speedrunner. She's really chill and really cool.
Twin Thumb, take it away.
We're Thwimp and Thwomp. I'm Thwimp. I'm Thwomp. We both started playing games when we were really young, probably around like 3 years old. And we started streaming, it'll be 2 years ago in June. And we don't really have a favorite streamer because we have so many awesome streamers in our community that do great things. And so everyone has their own thing going for them. So there's a lot of
great answer.
different aspects.
But my favorite streamer is Loki MX, so
We're off on a good note.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Dai, take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Desc. I have been streaming for probably about 5 months now, and I'm playing games since I was like 3. My greatest gaming accomplishment would probably be beating Halo 1 on Legendary when I was like 4, and I'd say my favorite streamer is probably my friend Midori, who is mostly does Hollow Knight speedruns right now.
Dope.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Okay, so here's how the format works of the podcast. I'm sorry, the talk show, right? Basically, we're gonna go. We have 4 topics tonight. We're starting a little bit earlier. Actually, we had the first 2 episodes starting at 9:30. This time it's 9 because we noticed we like to talk a lot, and they can go a little bit crazy, right? If they're pretty spicy, which is fine. What I ask people to do, like guests in general, is that to bring one topic they want to talk about, that they're passionate about, and usually. So the format is like if they bring a topic, they're gonna have an opening statement based on it, and then the conversation is gonna stream from there. Usually, so right now what we're doing is then run the first topic, which is like usually it's gonna be like a streaming thing topic related. So basically to break the ice, and then we're gonna delve into more deeper, I guess more heavy conversation topics. Although I don't know how heavy this is gonna get, but we can switch. We can get right into it, right? Okay. So actually I bring the first topic, and I'm gonna say my opening statement, right? I think that streamers with gimmicks get old real fast, and I'd rather have a good, likable, and funny personality instead of a gimmick, right? And I'm gonna defend that a little bit right away, right? I'm gonna say that there are many streamers that I watch, like that they have something unique, right? Like, and I think like we can say that what defines a gimmick, like I wouldn't say, for example, personality or a persona is a gimmick personally, right? Maybe I wouldn't say it's not it, but if, for example, if they bring like a feature, like something weird that they do or something unique, like I get it, like that can attract me, but I think that wouldn't keep me. You know what I mean? So who want to start against or in favor of this?
I'm gonna say against for part of it. I agree with you on like it getting old. Like it happens a lot. There's a lot of gimmicks that I think aren't necessarily like great. I mean, they bring people in, but then it's the keeping you. But I think if it's something that like goes along really well with somebody's personality, or like like if you look at some streamers, like there's what's his name, the streamer who's like a doctor, and so
Dr.
somebody
Disrespect.
No, it's
that guy.
and so like somebody follows or whatever, and like he has this huge syringe, and he's like, oh, like welcome to the whatever, and then he'll like lean into the camera and like stab you with a big needle or whatever.
Ooh.
And that's a gimmick, but like for him it works
Anxiety.
really well, and his community really loves it. So I think it's a
Okay.
hit or miss. I think it could go both ways.
Especially because streaming is about being entertaining. So as long as the gimmick remains entertaining and genuine, then I don't think people are going to get sick of it. If it was kind of like an annoying gimmick, something that isn't really that funny, yeah, that's going to deter people immediately.
Can you put an example of something that is not that funny? Or it's just you're talking about subjectively, like, right?
I personally, I mean, this is subjective. I personally don't like Dr. Disrespect. I mean, I guess it depends on whether you say a character is a gimmick or not, but I think his character is a gimmick. He's not genuinely like that. But he's just a really angry guy, and I don't like that. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's that entertaining. Like, I go in and it's kind of like, he's too angry for me. So, I mean, that's a gimmick that I don't like. I think it's not genuine, and I don't think it's funny. So...
Okay, fair enough.
That's
Lee,
a personal thing.
you
See-
were gonna say something?
I think gimmicks are neat, right? Because I feel like in general gimmicks can be a good thing, right? Because the intention of them is to hook someone into the channel, right? And I find it interesting because I wonder sometimes myself if I'm a gimmick streamer, so to speak,
Yeah.
because I have a lot of stuff with the channel kind of themed around a specific series, right? Like my username is based on the Castlevania series. I assume that my viewers kind of see me as like the Castlevania guy because in addition to like, you know, the username, I also do like a lot of speedruns of these games.
Right.
So I feel like to some degree it can help for like that initial sort of like visibility, right?
Would you say that creating a niche is a gimmick?
Creating a niche or finding your niche?
Well, finding it for creating, right? Or like the things like you created your niche based on your likings, right? Or the things that you like
Yeah.
to do on stream. Do you think that made you yourself, like a streamer with a gimmick?
I think to some degree, yeah, and I would say mainly because I'm sort of like not confining myself to one series, but kind of like I guess being defined by like a series, so to speak, right? Because you know, there's a lot of assumptions that go around with like, you know, the Castlevania series, like, you know, if he's into this, maybe he's into other retro games as well, and
Right.
I am, right? Like it does fit into that, and I do think it helps for audience expectations in that regard.
I feel
that-
like it
yeah.
also kind of depends because like when you have a gimmick like that, I don't think in the case of you, but in a situation like how the Kingdom Hearts community was, that's something that you become bound to, and that is what you do, and it becomes hard to get out of it in like any sense of the matter because, you know, obviously it's easy to curate a community who likes you for you if you're entertaining, but at the same time there will always be viewers who watch for the game or like
For the con.
same thing applies to like certain Overwatch streamers and just things of that nature. Is that the thing that can be worrisome about a gimmick is that you can become like tethered to it like fully, and that can be
I
dangerous.
agree
in my
with
opinion.
that statement that you can get tethered to a gimmick, but I don't think streaming a game would be considered a gimmick because people can be interested in only one video game. People can be variety streamers. I don't think the
Right.
fact that we are variety streamers is a gimmick. I don't think the fact
Well, I
that Varsity Gaming is just a Rainbow Six Siege streamer and so that's his gimmick. I think a gimmick is something that's a little bit different and a part of an entertainment that is outside of the actual streaming content of the game.
Let me, yeah.
Go ahead, Lee.
No, you go for it. Mine was
thing
a
is, like,
different
I
tangent.
agree with variety not necessarily being something, but you know, if someone is like just how I feel, if someone is like a Rainbow Six streamer, then you know they are a Rainbow Six streamer. Like that is what, I don't know. I see that as being, you know, something that they are connected to. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you guys say? Do you agree that what you're saying that being attached to a gimmick can actually be detrimental for the experience long term, for the stream long term, or
I think
What?
it has the potential to be.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe you can use as a medium or as an advantage for you to start with a gimmick or start with a game or, you know, to do something specific to gather that community first, and then you can branch out, how many actually IRL streamers have done? right?
Yeah.
Nowadays.
I definitely think it's possible, but again, it's just something where it's dependent because, like, yeah, there are dedicated viewers that will watch you no matter what you make, but at the same time, they're more likely than not will be people who won't. And like I had that experience on previous Twitch channels where I used to do, again, Kingdom Hearts stuff. I did Arkham stuff for a while, and it became a thing where if I wasn't streaming something, then my viewer count would be a third or a fourth of what it normally is.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember that happening to me actually. When I stream Castlevania, following this sample, or like games that are considered, let's say, it happened to me with Super Castlevania 4 and Symphony of the Night and Area, that I get a big, how do you call it, a stream of new people coming and following because of that. But the thing is, like, I'm not the kind of person that I will just play those games all the time because I'm gonna get burnt out, Right. So I ultimately just choose to keep them for, with my personality, let's say, right? Like, they ultimately they will come for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, like, I don't think I have, like having a theme or having a game that you play often, or like, let's say there's a streamer called oh shit, thank you. There's a streamer called like I think he's like, Hey Jesus, what's those or something like that. He's a Bloodborne speedrunner. Awesome. He went to the last I think a GDQ, isn't it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he got like a huge influx of people, from that. He got like more than 10,000 followers or something. I mean, he was already partnered and everything, right? But he's exclusively a Bloodborne streamer, right? He speedruns Bloodborne. But the thing is, like, part of his personality and commentary is just, he's hilarious, right? Or he's like, he has a specific personality. I remember a buddy of mine, Overner, you guys know him, that he was telling me, like, he got a lot, very turned off by his personality because he really wanted to watch the run. But I actually got hooked because of his personality and not the different, right? Because ultimately, I think that even though you can attract people, like, even though that's something that you do and that's the thing that you want to do, I think ultimately the personality is one of the main factors, right? Like 80% of what will keep ultimately,
Yeah. I agree, and I don't want to be misunderstood here. I don't think that inherently streaming one thing is like it will be bad or it will be detrimental on a long-term scale. I'm just saying that it definitely has the potential to be. Like, streaming one thing is fine. There are people who, that's what they enjoy, that's what they want to do, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I have nothing against that. And, I'm victim to that sometimes. I only did Castlevania for my first 3 months streaming. It's just something that, I feel obviously has the possibility to bite you back.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
And I think the hardest thing about this topic is that, like, everyone is going to have a different definition of what a gimmick is. I mean, we streamed Warframe for a while there, and the growth when we streamed Warframe was absolutely insane. We actually had the Warframe DEs come into our stream at some point. We got rated so many times. Our viewer count went from like 20 to like 70. Like, it was just insane. And we weren't planning on being exclusive Warframe streamers. We just got really into the game in that moment. Right. And then we've moved away from it. And obviously we've lost all those people because they came in because of Warframe. But I wouldn't say in that moment that Warframe became a gimmick for us. I think it was just, we're variety streamers and we test out different games. And we happen to really like Warframe in that moment. Right. And I think the hardest part about this topic is like what makes a gimmick. For some people, the gimmick is the game they stream. Maybe it's not their favorite game, but they continue to stream it simply because of the viewership it brings in. And so I think the gimmick is dependent on what the streamer decides to do to make it stream entertainment.
Okay, good point. Yeah. Lee, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, bouncing off of what you said related to the gimmicks versus personality thing, I think I want to reiterate that I think a gimmick is fantastic as like a sort of hook to bring people in, but I think one of the biggest constants that is throughout like a lot of the bigger / partnered streamers, I think the important quality here is charisma and being entertaining, right? Because you can have like probably like the coolest gimmick in the world, but if you're not a charismatic person, then like you're not going to keep those people there. Like maybe it'll be like, yo, like this guy has like a puppet or whatever, like talking for him, right? But then it's gonna be like, okay, but does the puppet have anything cool to say, right?
Right, absolutely agree. I think there is a combination of whatever gimmick you want to come up with. I think being creative about that, or being like smart about it, I guess, it definitely can help you, because also there is like the level of, I want to say, I'm not big, by any means, and I just started streaming like 5 months ago or something like that, and I started doing like just for the lulz, I'm gonna do it, because I can, whatever, the thing is like, I think there is like if there was a formula to get a lot of people, everyone will be famous at this point. You know what I mean? That's the person. But however, I think there's like consistency. There's like different variables that actually are very attached to the personality part, which is like the actual personality, the gimmick that you bring into, and how entertaining you are, and which is based on actually, the kind of energy that you project, the things that you say, your vocabulary, how you interact with actually creeps or kids, or everyone who people who give you advice, people who give you spoilers, in general, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. And also what we mentioned before, find your niche and being consistent too. And also, I think there is another variable is that it can be harder to grow exclusively if you just produce content for Twitch. Like, you have to expand to do some Twitter, some Instagram, like meet other people, network, and things like that. You know what I mean? Which I guess, like, I don't want to get too into like formula or like what makes stream successful, but I think the gimmicks are a very important part.
I agree, and like for me, Twitch kind of was my networking thing coming off of YouTube, and it's ironic because I've actually found myself enjoying doing Twitch stuff a lot more, and yeah, just not to go too into detail about formulaic issues, but yeah, networking in itself is just very, very interesting, and I'm glad that I've met the people that I have, because like all of you are wonderful, and everybody I've met this in the chat tonight, and just various people. It makes the streaming experience a lot better, even if I'm not big. I have 31 followers. I'm the only non-affiliate here, but like it's a lot of fun. I love making friends, and it's a humbling experience.
It is. One thing that I want to mention real quick, actually, now that I have the mic, you mentioned in your notes that that there is a risk of being a risk of potentially being bound to a series or title however long. And the thing is, like, I remember that you mentioned that about the YouTube, like, and guys, I'm talking about we have some notes, right? You mentioned this YouTubers happening to YouTubers. I remember yesterday I was thinking about that. For example, obviously, you guys know who PewDiePie is, right? I don't have to.
I do.
Explain his journey, right? When I actually used to absolutely despise PewDiePie back in the day, right?
Me too.
And the thing is, like,
actually, I'm not gonna lie.
Right? So the thing is, like, there's something that happened with PewDiePie is that he grew out of the content that he was making, and he knew that he had to change. Over the years, he always made different things, right? And I found very interesting that you brought that up, because I think it's very important for people, like creators in general. Like, if they always make the same thing, there's gonna be a point that is like, in this case, if they have that gimmick, there's gonna be a point that it becomes old, because you are also growing personally and your audience is growing with it, right? And I think part of the reason why he's so successful even today, and even people don't want to admit it, is because he knows how to grow, how to make his content grow with himself.
Yeah, he's a smart dude. Like,
he's a businessman. He knows.
Yeah, I have so much respect for PewDiePie.
I think that I don't know why the notifications are appearing super big, but thanks a lot for the follow. The things like you guys mentioned Dr. Disrespect. The things about Dr. Disrespect, right, is that I used to also dislike Dr. Disrespect, but I do respect him. That's funny. I do respect because he's actually an absolute star of his craft. He knows exactly what to do to be entertaining or to catch the attention, and he's always putting new content every time you go to the stream. You know what I mean? And the thing is, I'm not even subscribed to him or anything. I do follow him, but every time I go, he has something new going. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that's something that when you see a big streamer, like, for example, you can compare it, for example, to Shroud, and Shroud is just a dude that plays games and he's fucking amazing FPS. The
He's
thing is like
fantastic.
he brings his gimmick is his skill, and that's why people
Yeah.
watch it. You know what I mean?
That's his
But
hook.
the thing is like he's also a good person too, which is also part of that, personality. You know what I mean? Sorry,
Yeah.
Lee, you want to say something?
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to bounce off like the whole idea of like community building and all that.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention. So there was one kind of like gimmick that I wanted to like integrate into my channel at some point, and it's neat because it initially started off as sort of like a hook to kind of get people involved.
Right.
The idea behind it is that I speedrun a new video game every Monday, and like the idea is that I wanted to hook people in with that initial challenge, with people being like, "Hey, this is like really hard. Maybe, I would want to watch this." And it's interesting to see how my thoughts on that whole thing changed because what was once meant to be like a gimmick with the purpose of bringing people in, like specifically only for that, like the purpose between the gimmick changed like along the way. Like it wound up becoming like about like self-discovery, like self-improvement, and apparently it actually did wind up meeting the initial goal of
Right.
community building, because like I wound up being able to meet other people from like these other communities too. So I think to some degree, if the gimmick serves like the right purpose, it can actually be like super good for the stream, at least to me.
We found that really holding true in our channel because, like thinking about it too, having two people on the same channel is kind of a gimmick. Like it's
It is-
not.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
you
for
don't
sure.
see it a whole lot, and like we had the option of making two separate channels and just like playing together and multi-streaming or anything like that, but we wanted to like really keep it close knit, which helped a lot with the community building because like our stream is based off of how we interact with each other and our
Right.
friendship with each other. So like
Yeah.
then reaching that out to other people, like if it's genuine and you make it work for your specific channel, I think it could, be really beneficial.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
continuing off the community thing real quick, like to give some Diespresso and Justly Belmont lore, he had showed up to my Rondo stream, and he told me to speedrun it, which I did. But I ended up checking out his content and following him ironically because of what he does with dash cancel. Like his what he meant to be a gimmick, like he and I are friends now and we like hang out and it's fun. And
Exactly.
it works on multiple fronts in that regard because it drew me in both as a viewer and later his friend. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's on the talk show right now, so I'd say he was
Wait, I am?
successful.
didn't catch on to that part.
Actually, I always
Live.
wanted to be. I'm gonna tell you a secret. You guys don't know this, okay? Even Overnerd doesn't know this. I know Overnerd IRL,
Ooh.
and before he started streaming, my dream was to actually have a channel with him.
Aw.
Really?
Yes.
Aw.
That's so
Aw.
cute.
Man, friendship.
No, the thing is, like for me, like
How
we always talked about the streaming before he started actually doing it, and I was like, oh my god, that's like super stressful. Like imagine having a camera and talking like that. Like I was like, we were like, oh whatever. And he started doing it, was, oh that's dope, but like, by that time I wasn't streaming or didn't have the time or whatever. And was like, I always like come up with ideas. Hey, we can do this together, because the thing is like, it's a dynamic thing like you guys have, right? Like Twin and Tom, that that there's things that are gonna happen, when you guys are putting together, and that's something that, for example, even like now when I do co-hosts and things like that, I'm like way more chill and calm because I know I'm gonna have conversation going, because
Yeah.
it's
for
very
sure.
different. You guys know it's very different when you're just looking at the screen and playing a game or doing something. You have to think about talking or what you're doing or things like that at the same time. But when you have someone, it's completely different experience, completely different.
100%.
Oh,
yeah.
it completely changes everything. Like, when I started making content, I was generally a pretty isolated person in every term. Like, even my YouTube videos are video essays. I don't interact with people when making video essays. And me and Lee do pretty regular co-streams now, and it makes talking so much easier. Like talking in a situation like this is so much easier than it was, earlier today when I was streaming Devil May Cry 5, which is the best
Right.
game ever, by the way. But I know, right?
It's a good game. Really
Nice
good.
flex.
But again, like it's really easy to stream well and be entertaining when you have people like bouncing off each other and you have a good back and forth, and like I feel like it makes the experience just a lot more positive in general.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we lucked out because we agree on everything.
Yeah.
So if we didn't agree
That
on
works.
everything, I think us sharing a channel would have been a hell.
I
But
know.
it actually made it. I mean, we started growing probably like a month after streaming, and it lucked out because we talk. And I think the hardest part about starting to stream is just talking to yourself. It's so weird
It
Yeah,
to
is
it's
just
so
sit
awkward.
there and just be like, I'm doing this. It's just so weird. And we lucked out because we just get to yell at each other the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, I never thought of it as a gimmick until she mentioned it just now, but
Right.
it totally is, and it has really helped us so much.
Everything
We
in
would not be where we were
Yeah,
trying
for
to
sure.
stream on our own.
Yeah, before we move on, I think we got to an agreement. But I want to mention two things. It's funny when you're playing an open world game and you're by yourself and you're streaming and you're like, oh, let's go there. You know, guys, let's go there. But you just want to go there. You know, you need to. This is
Wow,
what we're
look at that
doing now.
place
Oh my
over
god, this
there.
guy's killing me.
You can walk
know
to
what I
that
mean?
mountain.
I just
Yeah, like-
screamed the whole time. That's the only way I got to
Well, you
just
figure-
yell.
streaming is like the natural evolution of the Let's Play, which used to be like the thing. So
Yeah.
you know that's kind of the direction commentary can take if you don't have other people. It's just like commentating everything you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Man,
something
I
else,
really
but I
want to
forgot.
craft a diamond sword.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah,
I
open
think
world.
I think that's good. You know, you
Yeah.
took like 25 minutes. It's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay.
Icebreaker.
Okay. So this is gonna get so spicy, guys. You have no idea.
I'm ready to fight, dude.
Let's go. Let's go.
Like we got like the wholesome friendliness over with, and I'm ready for
Yeah,
all of you
now-
to try to cut
now
off my
it's,
head.
It's war now.
So I wanna. This topic is from Twin Thumb. I want them to introduce the opening statement and just introduce what you guys think about. Go ahead.
Oops. Go ahead.
All right. So our opening statement is there are a lot of attributes that make a game great, but what puts a game above others is an immersive world. And it's like our opening statement's a little bit more
Vague.
it's a little
Broad.
vague. So like we're just trying to kind of focus on like actual world building and how that influences your immersion rather than like comparing it to other things.
And what qualifies as immersion for you. So what makes you feel immersed in a game? For us, we are saying the immersive world is what makes us feel immersed in a game. And that is what makes a game the best game, not one of the greatest games of all time, but the best game above all of the other games.
Okay. Following that up, what is the best game of all time for you guys?
Oh my
Three months
gosh, that's a loaded question.
Best game or most
So-
immersive game?
The best, okay, this is obviously subjective because I'm a little bit, we're kind of moody when it comes to games, but if we're going to talk best game of all time, probably Breath of the Wild is one of the best games of all time.
I think I'm gonna have to concur with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you both agree this is the best game of all time, and you also say is because it's above every other game because of the world building and immersion.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, defend why.
So,
Which elements makes the world building unique and the best, right?
So there's so many Zelda games out there, right? I mean, you can go all the way back to like one of the first games. Wind Waker's a great game. Ocarina of Time, obviously. But the reason Breath of the Wild is above all the other games is because Zelda fans have wanted to live in the Zelda world for just like years and years and years. And, one of the best things about Zelda is this like magical feeling about it. You have the great Deku tree and like all the Navi and all those different kind of things. And in Breath of the Wild, they take the world that Zelda fans have wanted to live in and they make it an open world. And so you get to run around and you get to experience all of the things that you got to experience as a kid, but on your own time and doing what you want to do. It has like one of the best graphics. It has some of the best sound effects.
Yeah, for me, what really makes it is the attention to detail. So like I am a huge audiophile. I'm going to school for music production and like I really love sound engineering. And so like Foley and the 3D space that they've produced with this game in their like world building and generating this map and how it feels to be inside of the world. One of the things that really stands out to me is the audio. Like it is so detailed. Like you hear all of the sounds in nature that you need to hear. Everything is spaced perfectly. your reverb changes in the correct spaces that it needs to, and there's just so much attention to detail with the audio and your like and just the space that it puts you in while you're playing the game makes it extremely real for me. So that's like one thing that stands out in that game to me a lot. I pay attention to audio in games, and I think when you have really good sound design within your setting, it really kind of kicks it up a notch.
Right.
A comment I want to make is I do like Breath of the Wild is not my favorite game of all time, but I do think it is perfect at what it wants to be, and I think it is the best open world game of all time. And I think it does have some of the best world building in at least the past 10 years. Because
I agree that it's the best open world game ever.
Oh yeah, it was a perfect return to roots for what Zelda set off to be even 30 years ago at this point. And it really does go above games in a league of world building. And I'm just glad that games are getting better in that regard compared to the 7th console generation, which was a little muddy, like quite literally.
Can you clarify what's the 7th console for the people who doesn't?
That would be the Xbox 360, PS3, and the Wii.
Okay,
good old Wii.
Yeah, because a common theme for that is where I would go for games that aren't super immersive but are like fun but not. Where like you have Spec Ops: The Line, which is not very fun but has a fantastic story and it looks really gross. But I feel like you can get immersed into that in the sense of like it's a story that's going to make you feel like a terrible, terrible person. And that is exactly what it sets out to be, and I feel like it's perfect at that. So I feel like when it comes to that whole it's fine. That whole generation is a huge era of hits and misses for immersing for weird reasons.
Yeah, that was one of our points too, to bounce off of that. We wrote in our notes, is there like an argument for technology now automatically making world building more immersive? Like, since game design has come so far and so realistic and realistic enough in fact that we're messing with VR, does that automatically make game worlds more immersive to you guys?
And that's why I always bring up Wind Waker, because Wind Waker was ahead of its time. It was open world without actually being open world. You gotta go on a boat and just go around in the ocean, go to whatever island you wanted to. Yeah, the little lion. Yeah. And so I think...
The lion, it's a boat. It's a boat.
He's a
boat. You just get him.
And I think that in itself was innovative. I mean, we're talking like, 19 years ago this game came out, or less than that, 15 years ago it came out. But I mean, it was really innovative for its time, and so I think Wind Waker is one of the best games of all time. Personally, I mean, I don't think it's up there with Breath of the Wild. I think it's a great game, but I think the thing is the world building in it made it just so good that people felt like they were in the world and they were immersed in the Wind Waker world.
I think Lee wants to fight.
Objection.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be that guy and say that relating to the audio design for Breath of the Wild, I found it to be one of the weaker Zelda games in terms of that. Yes, I will concede that the ambient sounds are good, but if we're gonna talk about Zelda, we need to mention the music of Zelda. And there's probably mainly like one song I remember from that game in terms of it being good. It was like the castle theme. To my knowledge, Breath of the Wild doesn't have its main composer. It's lacking Koji Kondo, and because of that, I feel like the entire identity of that game is just like completely amiss. And in addition to like the terms of world building, I think Majora's Mask is one of the strongest ones, because not only do you have a time mechanic where the individual characters act on a set schedule for every single hour of the day, but you still have music and all that kind of goes in line with that. When you go to Ikana Valley, where the Gibdos and mummies are, you hear like their groans and all that. The music reflects, the eeriness of that place. When you go to the swamp or like the Great Bay, like you go under the water, like the audio and all that changes when you're under there too. You can't even go under the water in Breath of the Wild, so we lose that sort of like world building and immersion right there, which makes me so sad,
Now, but I want to bring up a question, Lee. So lack of music. Yeah. In turn for instead, it's mostly based on the actual sound design of what's going on around you and more focused on that. Does lacking music take away from immersion, in your opinion? Like, how would you define immersion?
I was gonna ask that.
Because when I walk around the street, obviously there isn't music playing, and like when I feel immersed in a world, sometimes I feel like I'm just completely lost beyond the music, and I'm just there. Like I don't think music is something that's inherently immersive.
On top of that, if you guys ever ride the horses in Breath of the Wild, after around 5 minutes of riding the horse, the music actually changes. And that is such a big nuance in the game that it goes from this ambiance, like kind of repetitive, to an actual song. And it's so, like, if you actually listen to it and you play it, it's so like realistic. The way like people get like really focused, it's the same thing. It does like a subtle change, like at the exact moment that people get focused on riding the horse. And although it's not the same as the main theme of The Legend of Zelda, it was such a beautiful nuance in the fact that it changed with people as they were playing. I think that was incredible.
Yeah, I think you could argue soundtrack being a completely different section of a game, because with like, or if you look at games like Shadow of the Colossus, right? Like, talk about great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But, I like to look at that separately because, like you were saying about the composer for Breath of the Wild, like for you, that makes it a miss. But for me, I like having a lot of realistic audio, and I like the subtleties like you were talking about. So for me, that's a hit.
And actually, Lee, just to let you know, my brother actually agrees with you with Breath of the Wild. My brother does not like Breath of the Wild. He doesn't hate it. It's not like a horrible game. He objectively doesn't like it because it's not like traditional Zelda games. It does not have a linear storyline. It does not have the same soundtrack. It does not provide the same mood for him that the previous Zelda games have. And in my opinion, Breath of the Wild was supposed to be the outside game. It was supposed to be the Legend of Zelda game, but the branch off from it. It wasn't supposed to be part of the Legend of Zelda main storyline that's going, and like Link's story as he protects the princess. This was supposed to take the world that people absolutely loved and make it into a game.
I think
well, but they did that with the first Zelda game. It just had more, like, somewhat more structure to it in terms of the dungeon design.
Although I wanna actually, I don't know if it's an agreement and disagreement at the same time. What would you say, Twin? That I think every Zelda since Majora's has been the outside Zelda.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I was gonna say that.
Even Oracle Season, Oracle of Ages, Minish Cap, everything. It's like taking that small risk and exploration on how much they can push the genre or the world or the things like. And which brings me to the point that you guys mentioned at the beginning. Breath of the Wild is not more immersive or it has better world building because it's open world. Breath of the Wild has very good qualities as open world that makes it accentuate the lore and the world building that has been already created in other games, right? I do love both. I actually Breath of the Wild was the first game that I actually reviewed, that I wrote a review, and I still think Majora is better. Like if Majora is a 10, Breath of the Wild is a 9.9, right? And that just is because it became a matter of just preference. Subjective, very subjective, right? Because I still think Breath of the Wild is not a perfect game, but is arguably the best Zelda, right? Because it's different and it takes different risks, and the thing is like
it broke the formula, similar to Link Between Worlds.
Right. So the thing is like, I want to tell you something about the music too that you guys were talking before. Lee, I actually disagree with you. I actually think that the kind of risk and approach that they took with music and sound design is absolutely out of the charts. Like nobody has ever done what they did, right? And I think it's even more immersive.
The Souls games do that. They're like silent until you go to a boss.
To be, they're like elements of being in the town. Like for example, in Journey to Kakariko, right?
Yeah,
right. That it has music actually going all the time, but there is like the ambience is what makes you immersed, right? It's like every single detail, every single thing that is happening, based obviously how close you are or not. Like even a Bokoblin camp, when you're riding the horse, like it's like actually, I don't know if you have seen the video of and this is not actually going off track, but how the music of Seinfeld was made. Have you guys seen that? That is like everything just made up on the spot.
Yeah.
Actually, there's like an engineering part that went into development just to know how the piano notes should actually play depending on what you're doing in a horse or when you're in the field. It's like so incredibly, and it's not because I'm not talking about just because of the technical feat that it does or the advancement. I'm just talking about it because the way that it's crafted, right? And I guess we can say that there is a separation of consuming Breath of the Wild as a Zelda game and consuming Breath of the Wild as a game. You know what I mean? And I think that actually can create a little bit of diversion there. You were gonna say something, sorry, go ahead.
Me?
Or die.
Somewhat.
Yeah, whatever.
You go.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it there for me now.
The last thing I really want to say on Breath of the Wild is like, I feel in the way they do their music structure, it empowers the way the open world can operate, purely because like we've all played. One of the best moments in the game for me is whenever that I'm just going around and then I hear Cass's song playing, in the background, and it leads me off into
me
a
chills
whole
right
new
now. I'm
adventure. Like Cass's song, I feel is pretty powerful in the way it's like the tune.
Best song of the game, I think.
Yeah, and because I'm pretty sure that it's derivative of the song that they played at the E3 reveal. So for me, it's the song that I associate with Breath of the Wild, and hearing it just randomly while I'm going about the open world is like such a powerful experience for me.
Right.
I feel that puts it above.
One little note also,
lot of
imagine, just remember, and I know you guys all can remember this, when you start up Ocarina of Time and the piano starts, the music in the beginning starts playing, it's not the Zelda theme, it's the Ocarina of Time theme, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like the intro theme. That the thing is like, I just want to say, it's a little note, it's super good, right? Super good.
Have you guys? Do you guys remember the opening of Wind Waker when it does like the little scroll thing and it's like
Yeah.
like that? Literally every time I watch that, I cry. I want to throw that. I literally shed tears because it's just so nostalgic. I mean, I was playing it when I was like 3. I mean, and I think to jump off of that, I think immersion is different for different people, and so I think a lot of Lee's points were about the story, and I think for Lee, what I'm assuming is that story is a big part of immersion for you. And so maybe Breath of the Wild isn't one of the best games because it's not story based. It's not based on a story. It's based on a player and a gamer being in the Zelda world. And I think maybe that's why it wasn't the best game for you.
Like that roleplay aspect, mental roleplay.
See, that's the thing with Breath of the Wild, right? Like to me, like some very big components to like that I really love about a game are both like story and the music. Like to me, I felt like there was an absence of the music part relating to the story. To me, a big issue of mine with that game and other games in general is what I like to call the idea of seeking the plot, as in Breath of the Wild specifically it's got a fair amount of like explicit sort of storytelling, right? Like it has Link meeting with the king, meeting with the some of the different people from like 4 divine beasts and all that, and having like 1 or 2 conversations with them, and then like going to fight Ganon. And you also have the I think it was like the mementos or something like that with like Link and Zelda that you have to seek out.
The memories.
The memories.
Yeah.
Your little
And
camera.
and I like those a lot, and I'm a little bit frustrated that to get like some of the more interesting bits of the story, you have to go like so far out of your way. It's like, and to me, like I feel like it kind of dilutes the experience, right?
You say that like, as a person who loves the story. Right?
Yeah, as someone who's a big fan of like explicit storytelling, right? Like we have novels, we have movies where like the story is told directly to the person and all that. And like I get that in gaming, it's like an interactive medium, and in some ways you have to like kind of make like a compromise for that. But I think the lack of.
So I actually have a question for you. Do you like Skyrim?
No, not really. I mean, like mechanically, I don't really find the game too interesting. I don't like my problem is the lack of structure in that game, right? Like the what is told to me, the premise of the game is that you just like you're just trying to kill like a giant dragon, right? Like that's like
trying to kill.
And there's like a lot of other stuff along the way, right? And I guess it's subjective by like how interesting that is. I didn't find it that engaging. The interesting part of the story to me was the implicit storytelling, as in the sort of story that the player builds while they're playing it, right? Because I don't give 2 craps about this giant dragon doing whatever he's doing. I care about getting strong. I want to empowerment. Yeah, right? Like, and like I want to empower myself. I want to be like the coolest dude I can. And to me, the goal is to like, you know, be empowered, right? Like I care about the story I craft and that kind of thing, not the one that's told to me.
That makes me wonder then, what do you think of the type of storytelling that's present in like FromSoft games like Dark Souls, Bloodborne?
So I think they're neat. I'm gonna probably use Bloodborne as my biggest example.
Good call.
Relating to the storytelling of that game, I don't, and I'm trying to like view this as like kind of objective. To my knowledge, there's not many scenes of like actual cutscenes within Bloodborne, right? You have like several bosses where you get like maybe a line or two of dialogue from them. That doesn't really tell you enough. Like you have one for like Father Gascoigne. You have like some dialogue from some like NPCs after you kill like Vicar Amelia, but like going through the door and all that. But like the game itself is devoid of like having a story that's like, and I want to emphasize, explicitly told to the player, whether it be in like, you know, from other from like cutscenes or other players. Yeah.
Now, you're referring to a story told by writing, told by dialogue, but is visual storytelling not explicit?
Well, see, it's you got me a chokehold right
because the thing is with Bloodborne is every single action you do has an effect. It is direct that when you kill Rom the Vacuous Spider, you cause the blood moon. That in itself is storytelling, and there's nobody telling you, hey, dude, you messed up. You caused the blood moon, bro. That ain't good. Because you go back to areas you've already been, and there's, you know, the amygdala, which is the most terrifying thing. And I feel like visual storytelling is explicit in its own way, and in my opinion can be more immersive than being told via exposition.
Yeah, and I guess in that kind of game, like that's a good thing, right? Because I feel like the intention for many of the players is to pretty much like power through a lot of like because the Souls games are known for being like action RPGs, right?
Yeah,
I would assume that the player is there for action, probably powering up and exploring and all that. I do think that is like explicit storytelling. My bigger issue is that the abundance of the world building, a lot of it, to me at least, comes from the item descriptions, right? Like the lore that comes in between that. I feel like I'm not really okay with that. Like I get that it's optional, but I feel like if that's like one of the primary means of understanding like the world around me by having to just read like a bunch of item descriptions, I kind of have an issue with that.
Well, then I have a follow-up question. So to relate things to a series of movies that also has a series of games, Lord of the Rings tells a story that is a very self-enclosed story. But at the same time, you know, there's an entire Bible about the world that Tolkien crafted. In your opinion, is having the self-enclosed story and then having the side world story bad? Because basically, I feel like without the extra world building, like without all the lore about Canehurst Castle, I'm fine. But the fact that it's even there is fine for me. Because again, Lord of the Rings stands fine on its own, and then here's a Bible about its world that tells you, you know, such and such thing about the Second Age.
Well, so there's a difference between a story and lore, and I think that's what makes, because I mean, this topic is about what makes a great game the best game, right? I have played Dark Souls. I have not finished it. But the world itself and the lore involved in it helped craft the world itself. It wasn't just the story about my character moving. It was about all the other characters and all the other people and all the different buildings and creatures. And it's like, that's a world to me. That's not just a story. And so I think what made Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Lord of the Rings and like other things like that the best games above great games is the fact that they actually crafted a world with the lore. And although it's like you can have different storylines, you know, I think you don't really like Skyrim, but Skyrim is one of the best games because it's open world and it has a lot of lore in it. And even though the storyline, you get to go do whatever you want.
I think Skyrim is considered one of the best games because of the flexibility in the gameplay mechanics rather than the lore and storyline.
Yeah,
I think
not,
that's what people
I don't think it's the best game because it's open world.
Yeah.
I just want to object. I think that the open world aspect gives opens, you know, doors to, you know,
gives the player agency.
No, and not necessarily that. It's like open doors for different mechanics that you can, you know, apply to the game, and different, you know, I don't know, like drivers, like, you know, how you interact with people, what things happen when you go to certain places. agency, right? That we have talked about before, and and the thing is also developing your own story at your own pace too, based on the structure that is given to you, right? And the limitation. But the thing is, like, I want to also say one thing is that, again, like, I think I just want to make sure that we clarify that first. Yeah, like, the open world doesn't make it. Breath of the Wild is not great because it's open world, right? Or the best game, right? For better or worse, for instance. But and also the things like, for example, Wind Waker, and we're talking about immersion, right? Or like world building, and world building can be, the context of story, the characters that are in them. The characters actually also make the world more interesting and give you more pull into the immersion. You know what I mean? Because you can relate to them. You can challenge their ideas. They can take certain decisions that you don't agree with. That creates oh my god, I like this person, I get it, or like more three-dimensionality to the the personality and things like that. The things also is that I want to clarify that making it realistic is not a factor that makes it immersive, right? So I just want to say that there's like elements of that you can introduce in the game or in the media or the things that you're creating that makes it believable and makes you get pulled in, which is basically by character design, by the story that you choose to tell, and by the logical events or logical laws or rules that you create around this world, things like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's people that are fly and they actually used to be Soras, but actually now they fly, they just birds, and you're like, okay, I get it, cool. Or there are dragons, and you're actually Dragonborn or whatever, you know what I mean? These elements what makes it interesting, and that subjective matter also is also what's gonna get you pulled in, right? And I can bring the example of The Witcher 2, but go ahead.
I just want to bounce off your point that you mentioned about realism, and how like it affects your immersion in the game. I think, obviously, with the graphics improving and technology and everything, like hyper realism is becoming more regular, which is great for like open world games and everything when you want to experience an actual like universe and stuff. But I think that style and cohesive game design is really what keeps it immersive as well, because you can look at games like we just finished our playthrough of Bendy and the Ink Machine, not even a little bit realistic, but everything makes sense. The whole game has this kind of sepia tone, like the designs are very cohesive with each other, the characters all look like, if you were to put them all separately, they look like they're connected and in the same game, and for me that makes the universe cohesive and immersive.
Right.
Well, and that's what I was saying about Skyrim. I wasn't saying Skyrim is one of the best games because it's open world. I'm saying it's really cohesive, and you as a gamer get to make whatever story you want to be. You can be part of the Brotherhood, you can be part of the Thieves Guild. I mean, there's so many different paths for you to take that the world itself is created because you get to be whoever you want to be, and it's like you can go through and off of the whole style thing, there's a whole cohesive style to Skyrim. Skyrim has a vibe to it, and I think the majority of people who've ever played Skyrim and actually liked it just get so sucked into it. And I've never actually finished the storyline of Skyrim. I've never finished the main storyline. I've never done it. I have sunk probably upwards of like 300 hours into the game just making different characters and running around. It's like a cat.
But is that not a testament to how how unentertaining the main story of that game is, right?
But the game's still immersive.
The game's still immersive.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
That's my point. I've played 300 hours of Skyrim when I was in high school, and it was the summer. Every day I would spend 10 hours playing that goddamn fucking game on my ass, and it was just like there was no reason for me to storyline wise. There was nothing. Who the fuck cares if I can like shout things? Making, right? Yeah, I cared about my story.
Exactly.
Yeah. I cared about my story, and I cared about the world because I like to go around and fight people with fire.
I want to put a small element actually to help your point right now, Swim. I think I find it very interesting and personally fucking fascinating, right? That there is a certain element of politics in these worlds worlds, creative worlds like we're building that actually is what actually pulls me in more, right? And I can put example of even Star Wars, right? Star Trek, The Witcher, even like you can say like Skyrim, right? What's happening between these people and you making decisions of you actually feel more immersed because those type of politics or conflicts is what actually makes real life, right? And even Game of Thrones, for example, Game of Thrones is all about politics all the time, and that's what makes it immersive. And nobody can tell me that Game of Thrones is a bad show ever, even because
See, I can't tell you that because I
Game of
haven't
Thrones.
seen
I'm
it.
only on season 3.
because it's
Yeah,
they can
let's
tell
be
me
careful
because
here.
it's fantasy, because it's a bad word or whatever, like nobody can tell. Every single human being can actually relate to conflict and to politics, right? Like in terms of there's certain interactions between characters, the decisions that you take. What would you do in this situation? Every situation that is put into you, and you need to ask yourself, what will I do? I wouldn't know what to do and that's what makes it I think part of the engagement, right, of being these, worlds is that, wow, I wouldn't know what to do, or I would have done that, right? You can take a quick decision based on your morals and your ethics of, oh my God, I don't know why this person did this, or I can understand, I'm being empathetic about it, or whatever, you know what I mean? Which I think is one part that is super fascinating about being immersed in this world, right? Go ahead.
Actually, I have a question. What do you guys think about Detroit? Because
One day I'll
that's
get to
all
answer it.
about decision making. And
Super dope.
I got really immersed. We haven't played. We streamed the first playthrough, but I would play through it again just because what the heck? You had so many, and then how it shows you the map afterward of all of your
Right.
decisions, and you'd be like, there's a whole other path of 30 different choices that I had no idea.
I
And
actually
I think
watched 10 different streamers do different things. I was still engaged.
it's
You know what I mean?
amazing. And I think Detroit is one of those games where, because you as a gamer get to make your own storyline and make your own decisions, it becomes really immersive because you get to be you in the game. And it's not just about you following a linear storyline that goes, I have to choose this, otherwise I don't get the chest or whatever.
And even those cyberpunk or futuristic worlds that is there's so many of them that nobody gives a shit because the story is bad, the characters are uninteresting, or they're just trying to create, oh my God, imagine we have flying cars. Who gives a shit? You can imagine that. We have seen Blade Runner, Akira, Paprika, all these things, futuristic stuff that actually that actually bring a good story and good characters that can actually make you engage and immerse. Dai, go ahead. I'm gonna give it to you.
Okay, and I'll segue right into you, Lee. I got your
My
back.
hero.
Okay, so basically, for me, Detroit was a terrible experience because, hear me out here, David Cage, fine writer, doesn't make games. None of the David Cage games are games. I don't want to press X to Jason. I want to play a game.
Jason!
And David Cage games, that's not what they are. They're
It's an interactive movie.
It would be like if an entire game is a QTE, it reminds me of a Resident Evil cutscene.
You are actually diminishing the game value just because it's interactive. It doesn't matter if it's a game or not. We're talking about if it's immersive, right?
Right,
if the
but
world that
but
you put into is believable.
But the immersion breaks because I don't feel like I have any effect. I don't feel immersed because I feel like I'm watching something that I have no actual control over. Because no matter how many decisions I can make,
So you don't like watching movies then, right?
no, because
Hold
movies
on,
are meant
let
to
me
be
go.
movies. Games are games. The thing is with a game is that it's an interactive medium, and picking between decisions is like a choose your own adventure book. All the routes
Yeah,
are
it's
still written
literally
out
that.
for you. No, but all the routes are still written out for you. Two people can play Red Dead Redemption 2 and have nowhere near a similar experience. The thing with Detroit is that there is a set number of experiences you can have.
Right.
Because it's a flowchart at the end
Yeah,
of
and
the day.
that's what breaks the immersion
It
for me.
is if you turn it down to the simple thing that is a flowchart, it's a flowchart. Most games are. The thing is depending on the
Right.
context, right? The thing is Detroit, or let's say Heavy Rain or things like that, right? They're actually set in a certain way, in a certain type of structure to tell us a specific kind of story, right? And the thing is it's telling in a way, in a very specific way, or in a way that can branch out in different ways, and it's a flowchart, which is right, fine.
Yeah.
However,
So-
I don't think just because one is a movie and one's a game, it gives more or less value. You know what I mean? The thing
I
is
would like to say,
the subject that I think it would be unfair to attack it in that way, because the game cannot defend itself, or the media cannot defend itself, because one movie cannot defend itself, because the medium is calling for a way to tell the story, and this story is actually being told to you, and you, depending on the design, depending on the characters, depending on the world, is gonna get you immersed or not.
Did you guys do Bandersnatch on Netflix?
I did not, but
it is exactly like Detroit, but meta, because it tells you about the fact that you don't actually have a choice as you make a choice, and the whole thing cycles through, and it's like you think you have a choice, and then it makes you redo it, and it makes you redo it until you get it right, and then at the end it's like, did you actually have a choice? Did you actually have an effect? Very meta, and very like bouncing off of your whole point of Detroit and the fact that you felt like you didn't have a choice. That's what Bandersnatch.
I think that's an argument. This whole thing is, I think, a tangent argument towards subjective, like, if you like storytelling games versus if you don't like storytelling games, rather than is it immersive. Right. I think it's a separate argument.
Absolutely. Again, I don't not enjoy those games. I just want to say that they're not bad. Like, a lot of movies I don't feel immersed in. Like, you got to keep in mind this discussion is about immersion. I love movies and I enjoy David Cage games, but that doesn't make it an immersive experience. And Lee, you've been trying to talk for like 5 minutes, man. Go ahead.
Yes. Jesus. What was the question you asked me earlier between like having like supplemental information in the game for storytelling? You were using Lord of the Rings as an example,
okay.
Right?
So basically, you referred to the item descriptions having an effect on lore building in games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Yeah. And what I said is that, like, similarly to how Lord of the Rings has its own enclosed story, Dark Souls and Bloodborne have their own enclosed story, and then they both have supplemental information about the world that exists separately from the actual game story. Like the Cainhurst Castle plot holds no effect on the actual Bloodborne plot. Tolkien Bible holds no effect on the Lord of the Rings plot. What are your thoughts on that?
See, here's the thing. I am a big fan of having supplemental information and lore within a video game. But I want to emphasize, as supplemental, if that is the primary means of for immersion, relying on the supplemental information to immerse the player into the world, I think that's when a game becomes like weak in that department.
I think that's a subjective argument too, which that's the whole
point.
Because I personally really like going out and seeking information, because in real life, nobody's telling anything to you. So for me, what makes a game really immersive is when I have to figure it out for myself, kind of similar to how it is, IRL as well.
Man, where's my objective compass when I need it? Come on, man.
No, the thing is, like, if I remember you brought the sample of Zelda, of Breath of the Wild, having the memories that you have to seek for, and you actually didn't like that. I do actually think it's just, it can be a matter of preference, but the thing is, like, there is also I think that's something I'm gonna bring later too. Is a matter of how much you want to get into the game, right? There's people who just play this game just to, I'm gonna play the sandbox, I'm gonna try to kill Ganon, I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on. And there are people who's like, I want to know more. There's actually maybe not a big reward for actually going through all the memories, but if I don't care, I wouldn't look for them. But if I do,
I just feel like I'm missing out so much by like not finding them, right?
But
do you feel that in the
well,
case
you
of
weren't
Dark
able
Souls?
to move on in the story if you didn't find them.
No, you can beat the game without getting the mementos.
You can beat the game without
also
anything.
I didn't know that, so I went out and got all the mementos.
You can fight Ganon right after leaving the Great Plateau.
You can, yeah exactly. But the thing is, like, every game, most of the games, and this happens a lot with Nintendo games, is you can get as much as you want to put into it, right? The thing is, like, one main concept about Breath of the Wild is the concept of freedom and reward, right? And in the middle is the exploration, right? You have all the freedom to do whatever you want, but if you decide to explore and push, boundaries and decide to discover things, you're gonna be always rewarded, and that's including also the memories that they provide you lore-wise.
Okay. I want to also, like, I kind of want to make a point saying, like, while I am a fan of, like, the idea of, like, explicit storytelling through, like, text and dialogue kind of thing, it's not, like, perfect, because there's two games I want to reference. The first one is going to be my example of how explicit storytelling can be like a bad thing. The game I wanted to bring up is called Drakengard 3, and right from the outset of the game, we are presented with what we think is the real tone, and then it's like robbed from us right there. And what is implied this world to be like one crazy like mythological place. It's not. It turns into like some strange like anime drama. And the problem with the immersion in that game, it immerses you and then throws it away, and it keeps throwing it away because all of the dialogue in that game contradicts like the world that it's trying to establish. And like this goes like right down to like, you know, word choice and all that, even how certain scenes play out. Like certain scenes that you'd expect to have like a dramatic impact and immerse you into the thing, like they rip you out because like the premise of the game, you know, you're like this character, and her whole goal is to like, you know, kill the other Inquisitors, I think they're called,
Yeah,
which
they're
are
her
apparently her
sisters.
siblings. Yeah.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, I don't think you get that much information related to that, and every like instance of you like talking to them just involves like just completely trite dialogue that takes you out of it. Like you go from like someone speaking like Shakespearean English, just the other one saying like, "Damn, like who is this woman," right? And then just like stabbing them and having like a fadeaway screen saying, "Hey, this is not appropriate for this audience," right? And it's like, it's so bizarre.
That's kind of how Yoko Taro writes. Yoko Taro is a weirdo, and he's responsible for Drakengard, Nier, and Nier Automata. Even Nier Automata being one of my favorite games ever. He's all over the
Let's
place.
call him
Like,
special. He's just special. He's different. You know?
It's divergent to the point that it's like alienating, you know? Like,
well, yeah, but I feel that's
least for
kind
that
of what he
game.
goes for because he doesn't care what people think.
but with the first Nier, I
Right,
felt so
that's true.
engaged with the world. There were so few moments where it just
Because-
broke the fourth wall like that, and it
Like-
wasn't done in a manner that was like respectful.
But
In the
Nier
Drakengard.
is meant to be more like grounded than Drakengard is.
But like the initial tone that it presents, it's so like wildly different, and like it's inconsistent throughout the game, which is my problem with it. Like it doesn't pick one and stick to it. It alternates between the 2,
Mhm.
and that kills my immersion because it's like, are you trying to be like,
Oh well, it's
In
definitely not
anime-
immersive.
yeah, like is it
Yeah,
trying to be
no,
like an anime
it's-
comedy, or is it trying to be like a brutal tale about this woman murdering her family? You know, like
So my question is, because it seems like we all kind of agree on, like me and Dai and Mouse all kind of agree on the different aspects that make a game like one of the best games. We all really like Breath of the Wild, and you are the divergent one. You didn't like it as much. What is a game that is the best? What is a game that's just above other games
okay,
because of storyline or world building, not because you like the game?
the most immersive game, if I'm looking objectively out of all the games I played, was the first Metroid Prime, and it's immersive for many reasons to me. One,
Ooh,
the moment
what a game.
the moment-to-moment gameplay, it keeps you in the environment. You have, so I played the Wii version of it, which in my opinion is the superior version because it's a first-person game. Yeah, I know. I'm doing that.
Carry on.
Yeah.
Just laughing at Alexis
In my
face right
opinion.
now.
Yeah, but like it is in terms
No,
of
I agree.
immersion, right?
You're right.
You know, your character has an arm cannon. The Wii remote is a representation of that. You can look around and all that. Even down to how you like look at the game. Whenever you see like water hit the screen, it hits your character's visor, and you see it dripping down slowly. If there's a flash of your arm cannon that's charged, you see Samus's eyes illuminate like right in front of you, and then it fades away, so you can't see your eyesight anymore. You have environments that are alive and bustling. You have enemies that aren't even like a threat to you, just looming about, like just doing their thing. You don't have to kill them. They just exist in this
Oh, that's
giant
dope. That's
ecosystem.
such a dope detail.
It's so good. You have waterfalls like flooding. You have different ruins. For like the Chozo, you see broken things of like the race that raised you, and it's so
And you're a bounty
mind-boggling.
hunter too.
And you're a bounty
Shit.
hunter, right? And like, you know, you're here to kick ass and chew
Exploring.
bubblegum, but you're all out of gum.
It's like Luigi's Mansion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's
Mario.
neat because like I guess like the explicit storytelling in that game is specifically the environment and the world just being alive, right? But the implicit storytelling is also good too because you have to get like the best ending of the game, you have to like scan like
Scan
all the
everything.
different things in the environment. Yeah,
Which is very
But-
annoying though.
it's super annoying. I hate that. But if you're doing it as like a supplemental thing, it's neat because if you see something that you like, whether it be an enemy or a thing in the environment, you'd be like, "Yo, that looks cool. I want to learn more about it." And then boop, boop, scan and
By the way, you
blammo.
can do it on Zelda too.
Yeah, that's true with the camera.
So my
And I
question
mean,
is,
Every element that
It's
you
almost like
describe,
the item description thing.
yeah, every element that you describe is lived in Zelda or in Bloodborne or in other games as another
Right.
type, as another form, right?
Yeah, I acknowledge that.
so
But-
my
but in- yeah.
sorry, I was just gonna say my question for you then would be putting story aside to talk about immersion and just the world itself. What is a game that you would live in as an NPC that is believable and interesting to you? If you are not a main story character, what is a game you would put yourself in for the physical immersion? And why?
See, I'm trying to think about that because do I want to be comfortable in this world or do I want to?
Yeah, or do I want to hate life?
Well, yeah. So rather than thinking about comfort, think about what is the most immersive then, besides the story and like those details for you.
I mean, like I'm hard pressed to think of a different game, right? Because like, it's so strange because for Metroid Prime, I guess I'll use it as my same example, right? Like it's so weird because it's an alien world. But it feels so like realistic to the point that like I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it was just my mind being blown by the Wii remote, but like I felt like I was in the game with that simple thing, right? And like it's something like that meta and fourth wall breaking that like to this day I'm still like, wow, I was in that world for some time. I was actually in there. Like that was me doing like this.
I have a meta question for Mr. MX here.
Ooh.
So what time are we thinking on run until tonight? With the game?
We have been 1 hour and 15 so far.
Okay.
I
Cool.
think I want to give it like maybe 1 hour and 30 minutes more. I think we considering how we're going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, real fast, just because I can wireless headphones, fancy. I could hear what you guys were talking about.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. You pointed out, Mouse, that all the things that Lee mentioned in Metroid Prime are in Zelda Breath of the Wild, and so I think the problem with Breath of the Wild for Lee is that the story diverges from all of the linear stories of Zelda. But at the end, it almost sounds like we all kind of agree that what makes an immersive world is a combination of everything, and a world where the lore is complete, and the story, whether it be a storyline that you are following or a story that you create yourself, if it is engaging enough, it sounds like that's what helps us get really immersed into a game.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would say probably as like a brief note, I think the thing that succeeded in terms of immersion for me was that I think it's because like the supplemental information was always where I was looking, so to speak, in Metroid Prime because of how the scan visor works. Like if there's something I'm interested, like I see it in front of my eyes like immediately and just like, you know, hit the database instead of having to like completely like wander around, so to speak.
Okay.
I think it was the immediacy that I liked, you know,
Yeah.
and how like close to, because like, you know, it's a first person game. It's like a representation of like your eyes looking at things, and I think that's what like played a big role in that one.
I think Metroid Prime does maintain immersion wonderfully in that sense. You know, like it's almost impossible to not feel like, you know, you are Samus, you know.
Yeah.
How things are going.
Okay. I guess we got to a point. Either we can talk about trash games like Kingdom Hearts. Immersion wise.
We never did get to bring up Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, be careful where you're going, buddy. We still have a whole category
That's
where
a
I talk
dark
about
path.
how good
That
it
is
is.
a dark path to go down.
I wanna just real quick. The story, the immersion breaking thing. Like the thing is like there's a level of, oh my god, bringing words together and blah blah blah. But the thing is like there's elements of obviously of premise wise and conceptually what Kingdom Hearts brings is that they will have so much room and so much there's like so much lore, let's put it right, that you can get so immersed. But the thing is like once the story starts to kick in, everything's a fucking mess. Everything is like, at least personally, is that I don't give a shit about the power of friendship. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wanna. However, I wanna, you know, celebrate that I have fucking Goofy and Donald as my partners. That I have a dope ass Keyblade and Mickey Mouse is the king and he's a fucking ninja and the organization thinks, you know, okay, you know, whatever, right? But the thing is like, oh my god, I can kill people, whatever. Like world-wise, like, oh my god, I can go into other worlds. Like there's this kingdom thing and there's like, well, the power of friendship, dude. Like whatever, dude. Like, I don't care.
Okay. Now, so here's what I want to say. As your local Kingdom Hearts boy, X Ventus Hearts over here. Let's go. Okay. not all games need to be immersive to even be decent. Kingdom Hearts is not immersive, but it's not trying to be. You are not Sora. You are not
okay, go
Sora. You are controlling Sora. Follow up. You don't like Kingdom Hearts, but you do like Naruto.
Yeah.
It works
Sasuke!
under the same principle. It's all you got to keep in
Spooked
mind,
me.
man. They kill Kaguya with the power of friendship, bro.
Oh my god.
That is
Spoilers,
the
man.
overarching theme of
Well,
Naruto as well.
Kingdom Hearts works tandem in themes of friendship, and you got to keep in mind, Kingdom Hearts is for kids, bro.
No, the thing is like there's an argument that people can say, oh, all the games are for kids, right? The thing is that, and I say, power of friendship. Okay, whatever. Like what I'm talking about, what I mean with that is that if you don't make me care about the story, I won't care about the story because the story is either badly written, script is trash, the voice acting is disruptive, or like, and this happened sometimes in a Breath of the Wild with the English translation, by the way.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
MX,
Yeah.
I want to
Like,
ask you something.
I played Breath
okay.
of the Wild in Japanese.
Yeah, let me tell you something right
The
here.
first
boy.
time I saw like a little bit of voice acting, I was like, I had to change it in Japanese. So.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Julie, go ahead.
Same
MX,
boat.
I wanted to ask, like, do you think it's bad or do you think it's poorly conveyed? Because my issue with the
Story?
series is that,
Yeah.
the story. Because my
It-
issue with the series is that, like, the story.
Convoluted
you need to
and
play-
overcomplicated on purpose.
So,
Okay.
my
Well, okay.
note is that Kingdom Hearts is partnered with Disney, and so Kingdom Hearts doesn't have a lot of control over their characters, and they have to give up a lot of stuff because Disney has control over it. That's like because the Toy Story section of the new Kingdom Hearts, the Disney team kept saying no on whatever the guy kept throwing at them, like over
Oh,
and
really?
over and over again.
No, that
Yes.
is true. Nomura is heavily shackled.
Yeah,
Shackles.
so
Something-
Kingdom
no,
Hearts
he is.
lore and story is very, very tight and convoluted because they have to work with Disney. It's two different companies coming together, and not all of the Disney movies are out while they're coming up with their separate storyline. So Kingdom Hearts has to do like its own storyline while working with Disney characters. It's very hard. That's the only thing. I don't know a lot of. I played Kingdom Hearts when I was younger, and I don't really remember the story that much. But it's hard to work with two different companies that expect different things from the video game.
MX, I have a quick question for you, my friend.
Yes, you asked me. You said something before though about being that it's not trying to be immersive or something like that.
I did say that.
But sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
You're fine. But I wanted to ask you, so like in the sense of trying to be immersive deliberately, and you talked about poorly written plots, poor translations, bad scripts. You got to keep in mind when it comes to poor scripts, poorly translated, whatever it may be. Like, what are your thoughts on like all early JRPGs? The first 10 Final Fantasies
Oh my god, it's so
are
true.
all poorly
Final
written.
Fantasy.
But you know what? I love Final Fantasy IX, but its English translation is hot garbo.
Yeah,
like-
I
That was
okay.
my first Final Fantasy.
for the record, my favorite Final Fantasy is 10, by the way. So keep going.
That's a good take. But I'm counting that one because, again, ha 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 ha, in vein of Titus. But
Yeah,
like,
I know. No, I got it.
Yeah. But
Fucking tight.
I don't feel like having you gotta keep in mind, video games are video games. Kingdom Hearts, whether you think its plot is fantastic.
No. You cannot come and tell me in a podcast talk show about video games that video games are video games.
I know.
It's
Yeah,
like
no.
telling me boys will be
Yeah.
boys. It's the same shit. You are not making an
Yeah,
argument.
games are games,
You
right?
are
So
not
here we
making
go.
an argument. No, the thing
Well,
is like,
let him make it.
Yeah.
Let him talk, man.
Yeah.
the thing is
So-
like there is a. Wait, who are you talking?
him
Are
finish.
you talking?
Okay.
Let me talk or let him.
Well, let Ty go. He had the floor first.
Okay.
Okay, go. Yeah.
So-
go.
So basically, I'm not saying that the story does not matter. Games are an amalgam of everything that they are. They're an amalgam of the art, the sound, everything, the writing. But you got to keep in mind, like, the story isn't great. I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. Story isn't great, but like, it doesn't make it a bad game when you consider just how good Kingdom Hearts 2's gameplay is.
Oh! I love Kingdom Hearts too.
Okay,
I
well,
think
we're
it's a great
fine.
game.
I'm not fighting
Well,
with anybody.
let's
See
remember
ya,
what
boys.
the
It's been
topic
good.
is, though, right? Because let's remember what makes a game
Immersion.
the best game, right? Kingdom Hearts is a great game. Is
In
it
terms of immersion.
one of the best games out there?
I could
That's
argue Kingdom Hearts
debatable,
too.
right?
Not the rest of the series, but two.
So I think it's like we're
Best
not
game
saying
in
that
terms
Kingdom
of
Hearts is a
immersion.
bad
We need to
game.
reiterate that.
Yeah,
We're
we
not
are a
saying
little
Kingdom
bit
Hearts
off.
is a bad game. We are saying
Yeah,
that
no, I know.
Kingdom Hearts might not be the best game out there.
And that's probably
Yeah.
because of the immersion thing too. Like that's our whole argument. Like
Yeah,
if you
but
don't
not
feel
that
immersed in the
immersive.
game,
You
then
need
why
to
would
make
you
me
want to
care
continue
for me to
playing?
be immersed. You need to
Right.
make me care for me
I
to be immersed.
care, but the thing is I don't even feel like immersion is necessarily required for a game to be fantastic. You know,
Agreed.
I don't feel immersed in Halo 3, and Halo 3 is my favorite game of all time.
You don't feel immersed?
No, it's a shooter. I'm
Halo
just
has a
playing.
world.
Halo has a
Yeah,
world
Halo
and a
has a
world.
It has
world,
an
but
It's a-
entire world.
I don't-
It has worlds, it has a universe, but when I'm playing the Halo 3 multiplayer, none of that matters.
I think that also like devolves into genre, right? Like I feel like certain
Yeah.
genres, like we're not like immersion
For
isn't like as
more-
interesting.
what
right?
make what makes Halo is not the multiplayer aspect. And
Yeah, it
that's
is
what
for me.
no, I actually disagree.
No.
What made Halo the game that
That's
it
like
is
the last
today,
appeal.
right? I'm not talking about it's a massive appeal. Sure, they did it right. They brought up like they came with the concept of regenerating shields and things like that. They brought up many concepts, right? They also like popularized debugging, right? But that's one thing, right?
Now
But the thing
that's
is,
the
like
most important
what
part.
made Halo what is Halo is not the multiplayer, it's the lore, and it's the world that you are immersed in.
I
It's the
agree.
world
I
building.
agree with that
I
so
could not
much.
care about the lore. The
Halo
multiplayer is the
2 has
lasting
the
appeal of
best
the game.
cliffhanger of all time, but like I don't go back and play Halo purely because I enjoy the story. I go back and play Halo because I have a fantastic time playing with my friends.
Did you
I go
play?
back and
Did
play
you
And
play
Halo
the
it's the
story?
same for me as well.
The
Yeah,
world
I
Because,
play,
like,
I
It's so
played all of
cool.
them. Well, no,
the
it's really
multiplayer is the
cool.
lasting
amazing.
appeal of the game.
When you buy
Yeah,
Halo,
like,
you will go like, oh my, I can play. I'm gonna put this multiplayer first. You don't go play the story first.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm
No.
saying I love playing the story. I love playing with my friends. But like, I'm not like, wow, I can't wait to see. Like, the scenes are fantastic, but I'm saying the world itself isn't what immerses me.
So
I don't read the Halo.
Why
books
don't you just
because I
play
love
Call of
the
I don't
Duty
read the Halo
then,
books.
if it's
because it doesn't play
multiplayer?
like Halo.
But that's the point. Halo's got a world. It's got the gameplay. It's got everything that makes
It
people
has
come
the-
back to the game.
Right.
Versus Call of Duty, which doesn't have that. But if you're talking what makes you play Halo's multiplayer, why don't you just play Call of Duty? That's
Because the
They play
gameplay loop
differently?
is completely
Right,
different.
but that's
But
the argument. That's the
No, but-
immersion then. Because
Well,
you
but-
like Halo better. Because
No.
it's
No,
more.
I don't feel like I'm in like. We haven't defined immersion very well here.
We
But what I
really
wanna
we
say
haven't.
is that in terms of Halo, you know, it's a game that I will always go back to, not because like yeah, I love Master Chief, I really do. I love
You love Master Chief.
experiencing. I love
We all do.
experiencing the story, but I don't feel like I am Master Chief. I don't want
Okay.
to live in the Halo world.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I understand that, and that's something subject that I do respect that.
Yeah.
My thing that I said is that what made Halo was not the multiplayer.
Right.
It was the story. What made Halo what it is today. That's all.
I yeah.
so
and I'm-
that's the thing. It's the same thing with Lee not liking Breath of the Wild. You don't like Halo for the story. You
No,
like
I don't like
Halo
Halo for the story
multiplayer.
either. I don't care
I'm
about
But
the story.
think
in
about
raw
all of the other
terms.
people who play Halo still. We
No,
streamed Halo ODST years and years and years after it came out.
I played Halo
Why?
ODST
Because of the
just a few
story.
weeks
I'm
ago.
gonna give a call to Cortana right now.
Yeah. Like you got. I never once said I do not like Halo's story. Enjoying something and feeling immersed are two very different things. In fact, I feel very immersed in ODST because of the nature of its storytelling and the way that the rookie operates. But Halo 3, it almost feels like I'm watching an action movie while controlling Master Chief, and it's fantastic, and I love it, and I love every minute, and I love the cliffhanger at the end of 2, but I don't feel immersed.
Gotcha. That's
And
fair.
ODST, I do, because you know the rookie, you're the rookie.
You
And
are.
like, that's your
you are
personification, like,
exploring
as a
new
player.
Mombasa.
So in that case, what in with ODST, the difference that makes it immersed is the story for you. Is that what you're saying?
I feel like Halo
It's
3
also the way
ODST
the story is framed, right?
Yeah, the storytelling is completely different because you have to actively, like, not seek it out, but you are the one who, you know, you control every story beat. You control your actions.
But
You
you're
get
saying
to-
you don't control Master Chief in 3 or 2 on 1. That's what you're saying.
No, you don't control your decisions though. It's all linear. and I don't think linear games are bad.
All DST
but I
is
think-
linear too.
What? No, not really. You can play various missions in any order.
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
But the order doesn't matter. It's just, what we're talking about is like they're giving you the story and the structure that
I know,
that
but
tells
I feel
certain things that
more
can
in
happen, and that
control,
happens
which makes me
all the
feel
way
more
from
immersed.
1 to 5, right?
But I feel more like the more in control I feel is the more immersed I feel. I don't feel like I need to be immersed to enjoy a story. Like Halo has a fantastic story and has a fantastic plot. I have read the Halo books, but it's something that I read in the same way that I read Lord of the Rings. Like I don't want to be Aragorn. I don't want to live in the Lord of the Rings world.
You don't want to be Aragorn?
You don't want to live in
No!
World of the Rings?
No!
You don't want to be
Everybody
Gandalf?
suffers.
You don't want to have 7 breakfasts?
No!
I do.
But like immersion is important, but I don't feel like it's the end all be all, and I don't feel like
Fair
I
enough.
don't feel like players should be criticized, almost in my case, for not feeling immersed.
No,
I don't
that's
wanna-
totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to put you in the spot, right?
No, and even if you are putting me on the spot, I respect that. I'm
But-
just saying,
Yeah.
I love Halo. I love Halo's story, but I respect Master Chief as a character in the same way that I respect Dante as a character. I'm not Dante.
Dante's
I
pretty
wish
dope.
I was nearly as cool as Dante. Dante is my favorite video game character of all time, but I'm not Dante.
Just dye your hair
Well,
white.
Right. So in that case, since our specific argument is
Yeah.
saying that for the game to be the best game, you have to feel immersed. You're saying you like immersion, but that's not what makes the best game. For you, what makes the best game? What makes a game the best game?
I thought the argument
various
was
things.
like, what makes a game immersive, not like what makes a game
It's
the best game ever.
it's both. Because
Yeah.
we
That's
said
why-
what
yeah,
game
that's
puts
why
the
we
game
were-
above.
Game above
Alright.
others.
Besides,
Fine.
immersion is subjective. So like for you,
Right.
immersion story. For us, immersion is the world. So,
Yeah.
but we were saying it's immersion that makes it the best game.
But before I go into detail about what I look for in a game, I just want to say I'm loving every second of this, by the way. You're all
Oh
great.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
for me, what I look for in a video game is I need to care about the gameplay loop, which is why for me, David Cage games don't work too well for me. I am not somebody who believes in things being objectively bad unless it's like
Superman
bad.
64. Right.
Yeah, like that's objectively bad. But I don't think Detroit is bad, but I look for a satisfying gameplay loop that I feel I enjoy. I look for a serviceable story. I like to feel like I'm impacting something. And I
Like
look
in
for
Mario Kart, right? The lore.
right. But in the case of Mario Kart, it has such a serviceable gameplay loop that it doesn't matter. Like I feel story and like again, I don't feel like I'm immersed in Mario Kart.
I don't think
Mario
anyone's
Kart's
immersed
super
in
fun.
Mario Kart.
Everybody's
Excuse
just
me. Yeah, right.
angry in Mario
Yeah,
Kart.
everybody's just mad.
Excuse me. I feel very
You're
immersed in
either
Mario Kart.
drunk or
But-
angry when you play Mario Kart. It's
For
just
For
nothing
me,
other.
I'm
Yeah,
a story nut.
exactly.
I am a writer.
Three phases
I write
of
video
it.
essays for whatever reason. I review things, but I think each game needs to exist on their own, and we shouldn't say all games need to have a great story. All games need to be immersive because each game is their own self-enclosed product.
That's
Like
fair.
for me, I feel gameplay is king and story is very often queen. If a game isn't
gameplay-
fun, to
I
quote
like
the
it with
great
the gameplay
Reggie,
part.
why bother?
Dai, can I ask you
Wow.
something? Because
Yeah.
I never got to mention something related to
Yeah,
Kingdom
man.
Hearts. So going back to Kingdom Hearts, how do you feel how like the story is conveyed over like I guess like games over like multiple platforms? Do you think like and maybe this is kind of like irrelevant, but like
I
how does
think-
the immersion come into that?
Kingdom Hearts story is not particularly bad, but it is not well written, and it is conveyed terribly. At least it was when it was released. But
That
now
was
that
my
all the
thing.
games are playable on the PS4, it's easily accessible to a degree, unless you're an Xbox One casual. But I am. But
Yeah,
but,
the conveyance was the worst part
yeah,
about it
it
for
is
me
poorly
because
conveyed. To a degree, it is poorly written, but I don't feel like the story itself is bad. Like, I love Kingdom Hearts, but, like, again, it's not perfect. It's not one of my favorite games of all time. And, I mean, 2 is, but it's not for its story, you know?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I
Like-
think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Okay.
okay, fine. God.
Go.
the pressure.
I'm gonna close the subject.
Oh, then do it. Do it.
We could have done the entire podcast on this
I know,
topic.
It's a good topic. That's why you do it second.
Yeah.
Uh,
super dope. I think that's a great way to close it with what I said actually.
Yeah.
So let's in the spirit of not making this super long, let's move to the next topic, right? And this
Sounds like a
topic
plan.
brought to you by Mr. Dai, right?
Howdy.
So Dai, take it away with your thing.
Okay, so in the past 10 or so years, probably about 12, difficult games are a lot more common than they were during the 6th and 7th console generation, being PS2 and PS3 separately. And I feel that I love games to be challenging, and that when a game is difficult or has some sort of difficult playable content, that overcoming a challenge makes me feel like I'm actually doing something in terms of gameplay. Like, overcoming a challenging for me is super empowering, more so than like a very typical power fantasy is having supreme control over everything. But I more so enjoy rising to the occasion and getting good.
Okay, so is this let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
When I was watching you the other day you started playing Devil May Cry 5, and you proudly mentioned that you were playing hard because you're playing it hard. You know what I mean? Like, is this part of the reason that you do that to challenge yourself?
Yes. For me,
Because you think normal is for casuals, or it's too easy?
No. Again, I respect people who like playing on normal difficulty, but for me, harder difficulties are a more rewarding and enjoyable experience because it makes me feel like I'm overcoming something bigger than, myself. Like, a lot of people in the Kingdom Hearts community are like, you need to play on critical or you're not playing the game right. But
Yeah,
you can
that
play
happened
on
with The
normal.
Witcher 2 and Death March. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can play on beginner. If you're having fun, more power to you. But for me, I said I'm playing on hard because mostly it was an excuse to why I was getting my ass kicked. But like,
So humble.
yeah.
By the
no,
way,
it's
he
true.
wasn't getting his ass kicked. He was doing fine.
But no, there were some bosses that just wiped me. But like, I don't do it as like feeling I need to flex or feeling that people who play on normal are bad. I feel for me, games are more fun if I have to put more like thought into it. Like I play Halo on Legendary just because I have to like actually think. Like I can't turn
think
off.
you
my
mean
brain.
like taking cover and taking pacing yourself now.
Yeah, like you have to like kind of plan every move. Like in the sense of Devil May Cry, you gotta learn all the tools in your arsenal if you really want to win. And
You
that's
think
fine with me.
enhancing the difficulty make it more fun for you personally?
Yeah.
Like, it's
But
not,
I feel-
it's not more suffering.
Like, well, the thing
Depends
is
on
that
the
there are
time.
fair ways and unfair ways of increasing the difficulty. One-hit kills are stupid. I don't like them. That's why a lot of Dark
I
Souls
agree.
1 I feel to be poorly designed. I think they actually have better game design in the later titles. I don't feel like a game being hard makes it inherently good. I feel like it needs to have a good
I'm
amount
glad we
of challenge and
have
reward.
that out of the way, by the way. I mean, hard is actually for good. Keep going, sorry.
Yeah.
I was also going to mention that
Yeah.
too.
Hard does not equal good. I'm saying, like, I like games to be well balanced when they're difficult. Like, I don't feel like Devil May Cry is particularly unfair in its difficulty because the thing is it's very, very like entry level accessible. You can play on lower difficulties, but there's a very high skill ceiling in the sense of how good you can get and how much you can get out of the game. And I also feel
Okay, go ahead.
difficulty, at least difficulty options, adds a lot of replay value. Go ahead. MX.
Okay. Before giving to Lee, I wanna say, do you think? I wanna ask.
Okay.
When the developer gives you a game that doesn't let you choose the difficulty at first, do you
At
think that is good? Right. For example, well, not at first or not right away. Like when you start playing Bloodborne,
Yeah.
or like let's say a Souls game, you are just dropping into the game,
Yeah.
and you can actually make it exponentially more difficult while you go to NG Plus or things like that. You know what I mean?
Funny
Do
that
you
you bring
think
that
that
up. I
that
have
design decision
I also have
is
that.
better for the
Yeah,
experience?
That's one of my points. Not necessarily, but it's also not necessarily worse. It depends purely on the game design. Like, I feel games like Dark Souls or Bloodborne that are meant to be hard, like, that's a crucial part of what they're aiming for as part of their design. I don't think games like that should have an easy mode because
I
not
actually
all
don't
games-
think they're actually designed to be really hard. They're actually designed to be punishing. So go ahead.
Oh, that's
That's
a
a
good
good point.
take on it.
I like that.
But I feel that's very true for Dark Souls 1, but I feel like they move away from that design formula for Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2 and 3. 2 doesn't really count because it's made by a different team, so I'm gonna like kind of. But The
Same
thing
for
is with
DMC2, right?
yeah, don't get me started, bro. But games with one difficulty option are fine, but I feel like Bloodborne, I don't think Bloodborne is obscenely difficult. I feel like it's kind of easy to learn the gameplay loop. It asks less of you than Dark Souls does. I don't feel like that game needs an easy mode, and I don't feel like I like
Easy
that
mode
Devil May Cry.
is the first game, normal new game, right?
I mean, you can
Quote,
argue
unquote.
that, but at the same time, when you go into NG Plus, you have everything you had on your previous character.
Right.
like-
you already had the skill that brought you there.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's not easy mode because it's not easy. It's just round 1, round 2, round 3. I like
Okay.
when games have difficulty options, but I don't feel like every game needs them.
So, off of that, real fast, I just think that you have to realize that games are catered for everyone. I think all of us
Depends
here,
on the
we are,
game.
Yeah.
we are
Hold
gamers,
on.
right? We sit
No,
here,
no.
we play video games for hours and hours and hours. But I know people who just want to play Dark Souls because they hear it's a good game and they want to know about the lore, but they don't have the time sink hours to get used
Well,
to a game.
But that doesn't mean every game is
Yeah.
inclusive. Let's
I-
not say that.
Well, I'm not saying
I'll
every
let
game's
you go, Lee,
inclusive.
but
I'm saying every game has to think about the range of players that's gonna play. I'm
I-
trash at video games.
yeah,
I've been
I
playing
largely
video games
disagree,
since I was 3, and I'm so
Like-
bad at video games. And so, like, if I had
Yeah.
to play Dark Souls on the hardest difficulty because that's the only difficulty they offered, I would
Yeah.
never play it and I would never learn about it. And I think that's unfair.
But here's how I feel. You can't umbrella all gamers as all gamers, just how you can't umbrella all movie fans as all movie fans. Not everybody likes all superhero movies or rom-coms or comedies in general. The thing is with Dark Souls is that,
You're
it's
saying it's a genre for hardcore people?
no, but I'm saying it's the way it plays, it's crucial to its narrative. Like, not all games need to be for everybody. That's just not
Okay.
everything needs to appeal to every audience.
Okay.
And that's
Uh,
okay.
I think
People
that's fair, but I think a separate point, like, it doesn't have to appeal to everybody, but it should at some level be accessible to everybody,
yes.
But,
which
like,
is I think a different thing.
At the same time, though, it's not a game made for everybody. Like,
Okay.
not all movies are made for everybody. I don't
Right,
think
but you
every
can
game
still
should.
watch it is the thing. You can still watch the
Well,
film, but
you
if
can
it's
still-
like
Is any
well,
game
yeah,
for
but-
everybody?
Games are an interactive medium. You can't really say that when each game plays uniquely.
that's true, but you know, when it comes to like a skill-based game, like that's where you have problems. That's where I think there should
Okay,
be
well
an
then-
option.
I want to play Dark Souls. Can I tell you how bad I am at Dark Souls? I am so bad at Dark Souls. I do not have the hours to put into Dark Souls to get good at it. I want to
Right.
know the story. I want to play the story. I don't want to watch other people play the story. I think it would be unfair for Dark Souls to have its hard difficulty just to exclude me
But
because
no,
I cannot play at the ability that other people can play.
the last thing
Di-
I want to
Di,
say
wait a
before,
second.
before
Okay,
letting
okay.
Lee go is that,
Oh,
again,
no, you go, Die.
yeah,
my
Dark
thing's
Souls
irrelevant.
gameplay is absolutely crucial to its narrative because it is all about a cycle of life and death and failure, and the world is dead. The game isn't supposed to be like, yeah, just experience the story because the story is about how the fire's dying out, you're dying out, the world is over. It is a cycle of death and despair, and the entire series has a repeated theme of it's all a cycle, just like how when you die, it's all a cycle, everything comes back to life. The difficulty, the gameplay, is absolutely crucial to the narrative. And for
I,
me-
yeah,
It's the
I
same for
agree with
Bloodborne
that.
too, because
Yeah,
like,
like-
you're literally fighting elder gods in that game. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
like
I would hope that they are difficult.
Well, and it shouldn't. I'm not necessarily saying that it should be easy or that you should be changing the gameplay. I'm just saying that that should be on the developer's roster to make it accessible.
For me,
Not to
this-
make it like don't change the mechanics. Like have there be a tough learning curve, but you know, for some people that game is absolutely unplayable.
as
I
it-
have a friend who loves video games. He got into Dark Souls a while ago, but his first like 2 years of playing that game, he kept picking it up and putting it down because he just felt that he could not play it and could
I
not
did the
experience
same
it.
thing, but the thing is if you are not suffering, you aren't experiencing the narrative.
Right, but to a degree.
It's
To
true.
a degree.
Well,
I
right.
think.
But the thing is that it's not an unsurmountable challenge.
The
It's
game isn't
something you have to
impossible. It's
learn.
fair.
But that's for you. You don't know other people's experiences, though.
Well,
Some people,
yeah,
they
but
Every
really
game
can't
requires
play.
you to learn the mechanics. Like,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't-
exactly.
is-
But it's still like some of it's still really hard.
what,
For
it should be
What
more
we're saying
accessible
That's
because
the
it's
is
more
point.
that it should
punishing,
have
like,
different difficulty levels. Because think
But
about
then
it,
it's Dark
you
Souls.
don't have to play it on normal. We're not
You have
saying
to-
you
you
have
have
to play it
difficult-
on normal. We're saying you could play it on the hardest level, but you should have a normal level for people like me who are gonna spend 16 freaking hours fighting one boss because I just can't figure out how to roll because I'm stupid and I just can't fucking roll for some reason. I don't know why. It's
Can I
like
say
this
something?
glitch in my
Go
brain.
ahead.
Go MX.
I'm gonna bring up something, right? I made a deal. I don't know if you guys know the deal. I'm gonna tell you what the deal
I
is
know
about.
the
Yes.
deal.
I told
I'm
Adrillian,
familiar.
if you finish Bloodborne, you can finish in two ways. You can either can get all the trophies or fight all the bosses, either from normal game and DLC and beat them, right?
Yeah.
And I told her I'm gonna give you this X amount of money, right? I'm gonna donate
Yeah.
to the stream. And right there's like she is actually playing like and for example, she doesn't consider herself a gamer or a gamer like we are, like she likes to say, right? And I always say that's not true, like whatever, blah blah blah. Camera down. We have a man down right now.
Oh, man.
So one thing is about this is that, right, when in her playthrough, like she's still playing it, she got to what was the name, Dark Beast Barrel? No,
Yeah, Dark Beast Barrel.
the first optional boss, and she beat it in the first try, right? And what I like, but the thing is that she died like 100 times to Father Gospel, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is like, there is an element of that kind of game, right? That is not about the amount of hours that you put. It's about that I believe that is like very important. Is how you actually approach the encounter and how you. And I think obviously there is some skill required. Obviously that you need to practice. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know how to control your character and what your extent of your abilities are.
Pattern recognition too.
But the thing is also, you need to study the pattern recognition and you need to be patient. There is nothing else in that game that you need to beat that game. It's just pattern recognition and patience. Because if you're impatient, then you're gonna get wrecked.
The
And-
game can be summed up like this: hit, dodge, hit, dodge.
Right.
And,
It's a
and
dance.
it.
Yeah, you need to create the dance. And you need to create the know the pace. You know what I mean? Which I think that like you don't choose a difficulty or whatever. Like it gets progressively more difficult in G plus, etc. The things that you just need to. You don't need to spend hundreds of hours to get good, right?
Yeah, and
And we're talking about also like, let's say, I'm talking about gamers that have never like. That for example they are like that don't have the dexterity that we all have, for example, that because
Right.
a newer gamer doesn't have a lot of dexterity, needs to even like look at the controller, to make sure what they're doing, whatever. I'm talking about like we know how to play games, right? We are enjoy different games, etc. So I think it's like if you learn the dance, you can beat the game. And I'm waiting for the moment to Adrillian to learn the dance and not complain about the game being hard. And that's the argument I'm gonna bring against him.
And briefly, Thwimp, before letting you go, I do want to address the fact that you said you wanted to experience, the narrative of Dark Souls and the plot. But the thing is without the game, you aren't experiencing, like without the game and the way it is designed deliberately, and without that, you are not experiencing the narrative. Like it's not an exposized plot. It is
Right.
It-
Well,
Go
my
ahead.
The
criticism
implicit
of Dark
narrative.
Souls, my criticism of Dark Souls is not the fact that it's hard. I understand the point is to die a lot. There are points like Adrillian, I accidentally killed a boss on accident, and I was like screaming the whole time. Streamed it, whatever. But my point is saying that I don't think games should be exclusive based on people's gameplay. I think it's unfair to say that you have to be good and you have to have a certain level of skill to be able to play this game, because I like challenges and I always challenge myself, which is why I never gave up on Dark Souls, even though it was really frustrating. But the thing is I think that it's unfair to say some people do actually just want to play it sort of cruise through the same way God of War
Yeah.
had narrative, easy, normal, hard, and then God mode. You know, it's the same thing. I think they should give those options so that everyone has the opportunity to play the game.
But-
Bouncing off of that, I think just to say, like, the point, so jumping into a game and not choosing a difficulty right away, right? And then being given what the developers are intending the difficulty to be, right, is a great way to approach that. But even if that is the point of Dark Souls, I don't think it takes away from the game to make it easier for some people, because everybody else still has the option to experience it the way that the developers intended.
And if it's easy for them, that it might be hard for them. The easy mode might be hard for them, so they are still experiencing the death and the death and the death
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's
Well, then
hard
why even
for
make
them.
an easy mode?
The
Because
director
it's
actually
hard
said
for them.
every time he put to test the game with the people who were making it, if they thought it was hard, he made it harder.
Right. Well, and
Right.
I get that that's the point, and that's how he made it. My argument, or our argument, I guess, is
Yeah.
that it is unfair to some players.
It is unfair.
Well, it is
I see.
unfair, but the thing is why make a game if you're not supposed to have a subjective experience? I feel like it's okay for games to be exclusive, especially when it's following, you know, a similar design formula to the first 10 years of video games. Like, you gotta keep in mind, back in, you know, NES days and arcade games, you didn't get difficulty, period, and games were hard.
Oh my god, they're disgusting.
Games
Yeah, like
are
the skill
hard.
floor you needed for some of them is actually like astronomical.
Like,
But
again,
they were also designed for you to spend a lot of coins. As I
Yeah, it was a different
Well,
design.
well, yeah, but not in the case of the NES. That was
Right.
his hardware limitations. But the thing is
Yeah.
Dark Souls was built under a similar design principle. That, you know, that's what they wanted to be. And if Miyazaki, the developer, the
Miyazaki-san.
director, that's the word, on Dark Souls, wants to make a hard game, he shouldn't have to cater to people who want to play an easy.
I think I agree with that. I agree. With
I don't think,
that.
yeah, like
Well-
my thing with that is like I don't think it's fair for like the artist to have to cater to like every single
Yeah,
person, right?
no,
Like
right.
if I'm a writer, I shouldn't be expected to write like diction that like every single person in the world understands, right? Like I'm allowed to use the vocabulary that I want to do, and I shouldn't
That's a
have to cater
fair
to
point.
the audience.
That's
in
a
that
fair
regard.
point. It
It's-
is the art. It is the
It's
developer's
fair
creation.
for the producer to make Dark Souls as difficult as they want it to be, but I think you have to realize that the times of video games have changed. More and more people are playing video games. It's true. I mean, I know someone who's never played video games in their entire life, and now they're playing Fortnite, now they're playing Pokemon, and they never played video games before, and they were never interested in it. And although Dark Souls is it's a very niche game, we have to realize Dark Souls is very
Yeah, it's
niche. It has a
niche,
very specific mood and feeling it's supposed to give you. But I think the majority of games are learning to cater towards wider audiences because more and more people are playing, and there's a lot of people who do not have the time to get good at video games. Because I personally last semester worked 80 hours a week on top of streaming and doing schoolwork and working, and I never actually played a video game for fun time, and if I did, it was for hello.
Really?
Hello.
We've been asked to
Yeah.
re-knock.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm gonna remove you. You just get back in.
Are the
Oh,
panel
yeah.
layouts different?
It's a little bit
Got kicked
crazy,
out.
but
My opinion's
Oh
not
man, I'm really weird. Look at me, I'm in two.
yeah, knocking. I'll let you in.
Yeah. And then
No, I know they'll still hear us because we're in Discord.
Yeah, but I will. I'll talk after you get here, so I'm not split among two panels.
Nice. Looks great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And take this time to collect all my thoughts. Ready. Fire them bullets like Danganronpa.
Truth bullets, man. Love
Yeah,
it.
man. Love that
It's an
game.
amazing series.
Did you see our request?
No, I have not actually.
I hit knock. Okay, let me refresh it and then I'll re-knock.
And then-
Yeah,
and then
doing
I
a new
will-
tab.
I will fire.
Knock.
This is what happens when we go live. We do it
We're
later.
brighter again.
Interesting.
Welcome
Are
back,
we?
ladies.
Oh no, we're normal. Never mind. Hello.
So, what I was going to say
We're square.
is that welcome back to Square Cam. Is
Ooh, very choppy.
I agree that in general terms, video games are trying to be more inclusive as, you know, a whole thing. But the thing is with that is, you know, video games are art, and I don't feel like developers need to attempt to include people, because the more you attempt to include like everybody, to a degree, the less you appease your fans. And I have an example here. So Devil May Cry 4 came out in 2008, and then Capcom was like, okay, well, that game bombed. So they handed it over to Ninja Theory to make a reboot that was more catering to the American audience and more people. And because of that, they alienated the entire Devil May Cry fan base. Most everybody hates its story. Wait,
that's a different example
okay.
that they're doing.
I know.
It's a different analogy, by the way, but I'm gonna let you finish.
But, well, kinda, because they, but I'm saying in terms of just being inclusive in general, they were trying to be more inclusive in, a way of not necessarily difficulty, but in general, and, well, it was easier, but they alienated the Devil May Cry fans. And I'm sure, even in having options, it would change the way the game is designed, because Dark Souls is deliberately designed. Changing the difficulty isn't gonna matter if someone knocks you off a cliff.
But the clash happened because of the change of the character in the design, not the change of difficulty.
People were mad about the difficulty. The game was.
But changed the mechanics
easy.
too.
The mechanics and
yeah,
story.
you had red and blue
that light
that you
man.
couldn't hit
Crap.
without
I get
certain
that
double
when I get a
ringer.
photo.
Okay. But I'm just saying, it's a matter it's about the difficulty. It's about the story. It's a greater picture than in terms of Dark Souls. But I'm saying, it is a deliberate change of game design. If people were to add an easy mode to Dark Souls, they would need to nearly redesign the entire game to make an easy mode even fit. Because everything is very deliberately placed to the point where, again, if you get knocked off a cliff, it doesn't matter. And you can I see you shaking your head. I see you there, MX. But you gotta keep in mind,
They don't need to
Souls-
redesign the whole game. They just need to change the curve. That's it.
You mean
Yeah.
the numbers?
Not only that, you can take out characters really easily. You just take out where a character is placed. So if you're having
Well,
difficulty,
so what
with
you're
mouse
saying-
characters.
It's the reason why, I guess you guys know why people don't like Dark Souls 2 and 3 is because people say it's easy, right? Because oh my god, but you know what happens
People
is
don't like
that
that. It's easy.
and people say the same thing. The lovers of Demon Souls say the same thing about Dark Souls.
Yeah.
The thing is with times, there is more. People learn more about game design, right? Even the developers, they know there are things that come and go. There are things that stick. There are things that are given by we give a how do you call it they're given to us. They're okay, it makes sense that I have my health regenerates and feels right.
Yeah.
The thing is these developers also learn about the games too, making the game more. In example of Dark Souls 2 and 3, right? More tightly tuned, better placement or better graphics. So you have there is some more control for the character and things like that. It makes
More
the game. The responsiveness is also a element that just makes the game wow, the character is doing what I'm thinking, right? And that's actually an element of accessibility that comes with the evolution of it.
No,
right?
I agree. But
technological evolution, right?
something I do want to comment on is, I'm somebody who even thinks Dark Souls 1 is a poorly designed video game. Incredibly poorly designed. I prefer Dark Souls 3. I still find Dark Souls 3 to be very, very difficult, but I would be lying if I said that Dark Souls 3 does not alienate fans of Dark Souls 1. It does. And you see, that comes with changing the gameplay loop, with making it easier. And again, whether I prefer it, which would be in the case of Thwimp, wanting to be able to experience the narrative of Dark Souls with an easy difficulty. Dark Souls 1, pretty poorly designed in my opinion. Dark Souls 3 was designed in an attempt to be, I guess, more fair. And it's a lot faster paced, and it is fundamentally a very different game than Dark Souls 1. But I again said that by changing things, you alienate the original fan base, which is what they did.
Well, but that's changing the design of the game, not changing the difficulty of the game. They're changing the game mechanics, the game design. That's not what I was talking about. I'm talking about changing the difficulty. And you have to realize, Dark Souls, the amount of times that you die on hard might be the same amount of times that I die on easy. It's not so much you're gonna play it on easy, so you don't get to play Dark Souls the same way you want to play. It's giving people options so that
Right.
the people who die constantly and cannot get further in the game can play it at the same difficulty that maybe the designer had in his mind, the vision he had in his mind. And I think it's fair to offer people options so that they can play with their own skill level and not expect people to be pro players to play the game.
And that would also, that would keep
I
it from
agree.
diminishing, the players who prefer to play at the really difficult levels experience.
Because they still have that option and they can still do it.
That's
My
fair,
concern
but
with
the
the
thing is-
difficulty thing is that, like, I get it, you can tweak the numbers and all that, you can like still like remove enemies, but like that's not going to teach the player like the tools they need to succeed, right? It's going to give them more leniency for making mistakes, but like
But
that's my
that's
problem
your
with it.
learning curve, though.
The thing is, Dark
My
Souls
learning
isn't
curve?
supposed to
Well,
be.
that's like I'm just saying that's an individualistic thing.
If Dark Souls
like,
is
it's
not
expected
designed
of
to be fair. It isn't.
Well,
And-
yeah,
Yes,
I'm not saying the easy
We're
mode
not
is
saying
fair.
it should
No,
be
no,
fair.
I'm
We're
saying it should be playable.
still be unfair.
No,
I
you
do
said
think it's a fair
giving
game,
an
by the
easy mode would be fair. It's not
To-
trying to be fair in any way.
No, we're not saying we're not. Hold on, sorry.
This is why
I
I
need to
said
clarify.
the amount of times that you would die on hard would be the same amount of times I would die on easy. That's not fair.
Well, no, I know.
The game still
No.
isn't fair. It's just easier for
It's
me.
rather than
It
fair.
lets you-
rather
no,
than
it
fair,
lets
let's
you
use
make
the
more
term
mistakes.
accessible.
It lets you make more
Miyazaki,
mistakes if it's
the thing is
easier.
though, is as a game designer, that's not what Miyazaki wants, and I don't feel like we should punish him for that. I think Dark Souls 1 is poorly designed. That is the hill I will stand on. But I don't think it should be like, I don't think there should be an easy mode, because that's not what he wanted. People
No,
should
okay.
design
Okay,
games
I think you have made a point. That's not what he wanted.
Yeah.
Like, there's an artist, like, as a creator, right? You're just like, this is what I want. The thing is, like, I think the point that Twin Tom was trying to make, if I may, right? I don't want to speak for you, but it's like, I think it's taking the approach of, it's not about creating the game to be easier or harder, right? I think it's more about
Accessibility.
no, not even accessibility. Like, because I say also at the beginning, it's about a game. It's about a game is designed to punish you. I don't think that, because I do think the Dark Souls in general, and Bloodborne, whatever, right? The genre is fair. It's well designed, right? And I think also that's part of what keeps people coming and things like that. But I think it's also the fix, like as you mentioned before, that I couldn't like finish my point before, is that you said you need to change the whole game to make the game easier. And I think
do
there's
feel
like
you do.
there's like two things that we need to consider, right? That I have actually in my notes, is that the game can put you in the same difficulty throughout the whole game, or the game can put you to have a curve, a learning curve, and a difficulty curve from the beginning to the end, because you get better at playing. The enemy placement, changes, the amount of health that enemies have, the amount that you have, right? Like, in the game, it punishes from the beginning. But the thing is, like, if the game, like, the core of the game, the design of the game, the enemies don't need to change, right? What needs to be changed is, like, the decision making of, how intelligent this enemy is, how many amount of enemies that you're put into the beginning areas, how you actually exponentially, grow your skill by using the abilities that you have, what kind of arsenal are you provided from the beginning, how you learn the techniques, how difficult is it, like how much health a first boss has, what's the goal of actually putting a first boss. Usually, like, first bosses or first levels are actually designed in games to actually, as a tutorial stuff, like you learn how to jump, you learn how to attack, and things like that. The thing is, like, you can take that approach for the first boss in the first area of a Dark Souls game without changing the premise of the whole Dark Souls game, and without actually changing the director's vision or anything, right?
Now, can I would like to segue off Dark Souls here in a second, because again, I stated in my opening statement that I don't think having one difficulty option is necessarily the best way to do it. But I do feel that if Miyazaki wants his game to be punishing, that's okay. I don't feel like every game needs to be playable by everybody. Dark Souls, in my opinion, is a pretty swell series, but I do understand that for some people it is not accessible. And I do not necessarily think that is a good thing. I do think a lot of people should be able to play games, which is why, like, I talked about Devil May Cry, which has, a slew of difficulty options. Like, I think that is in general a better design option, but I think that if a developer wants to design a game without that, so be it. Because they need to realize the consequences of that decision. Because, anybody realistically, if you're playing on easy, can pick up and play Devil May Cry. And that's fact. It's easy on easy difficulty.
Yeah.
But with Dark Souls, I don't feel like, well, this applies to any genre. If a developer has a vision or has any idea of where they want to go, I think that's okay. I think authorial intent is something really important. Like, with me being a writer, like, I am personally comfortable with the fact that there are some games I will never beat, some games that I am not good enough to play. I don't think I will ever beat Devil May Cry 5 on Hell and Hell difficulty, because it's real hard. I don't think that I'll ever beat Demon Souls again, because I'm just not as good as I used to.
Even though you said you like a challenge to make yourself feel better.
I do, but
right?
there
the
are
reward is greater.
I cannot beat.
Okay. Let me put you an
I'm not-
example based on the other argument. Sakurai said that the way he designed Kirby games is that anyone can play, right?
Mhm.
Anyone can come from a different level, a 5-year-old, right? A
Yeah.
beginner game, let's say a 13-year-old, like pick up Kirby, they have played other games and things like that. Or we can come, like maybe, whatever. You can have different level of skill to actually be put into the game and still enjoy the game. Still enjoying the game and also enjoying in a different way, right? There is like the level of skill that you can. Oh, I can jump and suck shit, right? Jump around, I'm
Don't put
Kirby.
it
You
that
know what I
way.
mean? Jump around, I'm gonna finish the level. Oh,
You
no,
know-
the tree is blowing at me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But then
No,
there's also the skill like I'm gonna do fucking speed run. I'm gonna finish this game in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're gonna
Holy shit!
destroy it.
I never thought Kirby could move this way. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
The same happened with Mario Super Mario Odyssey, and it's designed in a certain manner. Mario 64 is the same way, that you have an amount of tools. It's still the game, like there's a gradual based on level design, difficulty, obviously, but you as a player can push it as much as you can because of how it's designed. And I think that's the point of being done.
I want
imagine a Dark Souls like that, right?
But the thing is, though, is that I'll let Lee go right after myself, but I don't think
I don't want to
Dark
talk
Souls
about it for a while.
doesn't want to be this. And the thing is, I think that is a much better way of designing a game. But I feel that, again, developers should have the freedom. Like Devil May Cry having options, perfect. Kirby having, a high skill ceiling, perfect. But again, I feel like the option for people to make it however they want is what matters more. Go ahead, Lee. I am so sorry.
All right, no, it's okay. I've been wanting to jump into this difficulty train for a bit now. So look, I'm gonna acknowledge up front that I think difficulty is a very subjective thing. I fully acknowledge the idea of accessibility by keeping it open for everyone. I acknowledge the idea of keeping it true to the author's intent. I think I want to kind of delve into the idea of how designing difficulty goes into this, and a couple things I have related to that. I think the idea of good difficulty stems from several factors. One, I think that your in-game avatar should have the tools needed to deal with this, and the challenge should be designed around that. I think that's very important, right? And in addition to that, I think the enemies should condition the player to do what I like to call right action. So in the event of let's take Bloodborne's first area, right? There's a lot of enemies there. The first one you encounter is more or less designed to kill you, right? Up front, but you still have an instance to kind of react to it and kind of understand what it's all about, and then it gradually introduces more until you're faced with a mob of angry villagers, right? So it's kind of giving you these escalating scenarios to kind of condition the player how to react and all these different things. And this is all in the first area of the game. To me, I think this is a good idea for difficulty purposes, because it's giving you scenarios that are gradually increasing. Enemies are teaching you different things. Maybe you hit the gun button for some random instance, and something happens. But I think good difficulty stems from, designing the challenge around your avatar, and in addition to that, not forcing the player, but encouraging the player to use all of your tools at your disposal.
Yeah, and
I think that's something that can be achieved even if there's one set difficulty or many, right?
something I want to briefly comment on is I'm not trying to be the jerk who's like, oh, get good casual in terms of Dark Souls, but I'm like again, like I respect that, you know, some people have difficulty with games like that, and I respect that, you know, like it is unfortunate that, you know, not every game is for everybody, but in light of games being an interactive medium, I feel like that's a very hard goal to achieve. Like,
it is hard.
Like,
Yeah,
again,
it's super hard.
I love video games, and again, I'm sorry if I seem like a dick for this argument. I'm very passionate about it.
No,
you're good, dude.
Yeah, like,
nobody's
I'm
being a dick
Yeah,
today.
okay.
This is all
Good.
pleasant
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, okay, good. Because, like, I don't want to come off as that guy being like, oh, this game is not for you. Because, like, it's hard to say that as somebody who enjoys these games, because, like, again, like, it really is hard to ride the line between, like, games being accessible and games being, you know, piss difficult. Which is why I agree that having a set of options is generally better. Like, but, like, having a lot of trouble wording my...
No, I think
No, it's okay, dude.
I-
Take a deep
I
breath.
really
You're good, you're good.
agree with what you were saying about, you know, it being the developer's choice
Yeah.
and how that applies to other things too. Like, for me personally, I'm not good at Dark Souls. I suck at that game. I would love to be able to finish it because I do think it's a really interesting game. I do want to know the lore. I do want to experience the difficulty to some extent, you know?
Of course.
But, you know, if you look at, like, if you think about, like, art, like, if somebody makes an art piece and, you know, if it, like, if somebody, for example, is, like, absolutely, for some weird reason, this doesn't make sense, but it's just a weird analogy, hates paint. They cannot stand
Man, I hate paint.
It's the worst. They're like ink work, the best. They can do that all day long. But if they hate paint, like, the artist's choice to paint something in paint instead of ink is the artist's choice. And if somebody doesn't like that, or if somebody, like, can't stand to be near it, or just, like, that's, you know, then that's that.
Yeah.
Which is a fair argument. I just think that, you know, as in terms of accessibility, you should still be able to experience difficulty in what, like, the developer intended, but, you know, not have to, like, quit.
And the thing is, too, is if the developer is intending for the game to be really hard, he's still reaching that intention, right? If the easy mode is really hard for some people, right? He's still getting the punishment that he wants out of the players because he's offering an easy mode for people. And so I think he's still achieving his goal. And I mean, obviously, he created this game. It's his, you know, it's his work to do with what he wants.
Right.
But in my opinion, in terms of difficulty level, you have to realize everyone has their own skill set.
Yeah,
and
limits.
if someone wants to play it, I think he'd still achieve his idea of making the game really hard and punishing the player if the easy mode is a hard mode for those who cannot play games well. I think that's still fair.
I do agree with that. Now, I feel like this is a good time for me to segue into what makes the game too stupidly difficult.
Yes, good. I'm glad you're mentioning that.
I
'cause
know.
I wanted to
I'm
also
helping you
ask-
out here, Lee. I'm looking at your notes.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, me and my buddy Lee, you know, this cool guy right here, we've been playing Resident Evil 5 on stream on professional mode, and it is so stupidly, absurdly difficult that everything kills you in one hit.
Jeez.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that's a point where, again, you know, it's an option, like, we chose that, but even so, it's an option that is absolutely balls to the walls difficult in the sense that, like, literally, even if you don't make a mistake, you can still be punished by just cheaply designed situations.
Yeah, a good example of that is me constantly getting blown up in the boat with
Oh
like
my
dynamite
God.
while we were going along, and there was like no
Yeah.
way to avoid it as far as we knew.
It was
Oh, no.
unavoidable dynamite if you were playing as player 2.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
no.
I remember some part that you just spawn, that you press
Yeah.
continue and you spawn and you die like in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
I remember
there's also a thing where if you get hit, instead of instantly dying, you get put in a death state, and you can walk over to heal your partner, but, you know,
Oh my god,
you have
yes!
to wait for the animation to go through instead of it just healing your partner. And if the animation takes too long, your partner dies and you're going back to the checkpoint, buddy. And
I think
is
that's
happened to us
stupid.
over 100
I think that way-
times. It's actually insane.
That way to like that example that you're putting is a way that I believe the game was designed in normal mode, and they were like, how do we make this game more difficult artificially?
100%.
And they even played the game to actually make sure it was still fun.
True.
You know, a good example of that. What's the hardest difficulty in DMC? The one where everything kills you in one hit, but you have to like bust
Hell
your
in
ass to
Hell.
like, kill them. Yeah, that
Hell
one.
in
It
Hell.
seems like that, right? Because like I like
Yeah.
DMC. I don't think the game is designed around that. Same for Resident Evil being designed around
No, yeah, no, you're
literally
very
everything
correct.
hitting you in one hit. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's
Hell in
what-
Hell is absurdly difficult, but I feel like that is a bit more of a deliberate decision because there's more leading up to it. But in the case of Resident Evil 5, I'm forgetting their name of their hard mode, not their very hard, but their very hard is only a little bit harder than normal, and then their professional is absolutely broken, which isn't the case
Yeah.
for any prior or after Resident Evil game, where there's a
And-
little bit more fluctuation between difficulty scaling.
I agree with the idea of the professional being like too hard, like they put stuff in it that like you can't even combat. That's stupid.
Yeah.
And to pull off of the idea of the Hell of Hell or whatever it is of
Yeah.
Devil May Cry, I mean the hero mode in Legend of Zelda, they start you off with 3 hearts and every single hit dies. You're not allowed to get hit in the hero
Yeah.
mode of Legend of
Yeah.
Zelda. And I think that's fair and people want that specific challenge. And I think that's a difficulty level that people get to choose. While
Mhm.
professional is just like you have no option. You can't even fight whatever they're offering you, and that's
Can I-
too difficult. That's not even a difficulty. That's just
Yeah.
stupid.
Can I bring up something about Breath of the Wild I wanted to mention? Regarding
sure.
the hero mode in that game, I also don't think the game was designed with that in mind, because specifically, the enemies regenerate life in a game where you have a weapon breaking system. So,
And the
like,
heroes.
I think it was
and
actually not
it was
put out well.
DLC that costs money.
yeah, that too. Like,
Man.
like the whole health regeneration and weapon durability thing, like you can't have both of those in a game. You have either one or the other, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
that's so
I
infuriating.
agree.
wanna-
Go ahead.
Uh,
Max.
go ahead, MX. You haven't talked for a while, so.
No, I just want to bring up like the fact that artificial difficulty is something that is commonly found now, just to make games just. I think there's a trend like which is also like based on the opening scene that you had, that it, you know, like games like are more and more designed to be challenging, right? But there are like
Yeah,
a
which
lot of
is-
them, and maybe at 80% of them that is just artificially challenged, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like sort of like how, you know, the Souls games at least attempt to be balanced, but you know, there are Souls likes where, you know, they want to be a Souls game, so they're just stupid hard. Like
Yeah, indie
there's
games
this-
that are there, they're either Souls-like or something completely.
yeah,
You
like
know what I mean?
people are like people are going out of their way to try to just make a very, very hard product, which, you know, is a double-edged sword. Like, you know, there are people who will eat that up, but at the same time, like, obviously, like, I'm a little bit flip-flop because, you know, like I said that Dark Souls should not have difficulty options, but I'm somebody who prefers those, which makes me feel a little bit weird, to be honest.
You're
But,
being consistent, which is actually pretty bad.
Oh, come on.
Well, no,
You're
It's,
hurting
it's
me.
dependent on the game, you know.
But
I'm
it-
just being
it's like-
snarky.
Yeah.
I like having the options, but they don't work in every game. But I feel like it's more important to make a well-designed game than it is to make a hard.
It is, and which
Well-
brings me a
Hard
point
doesn't
of
necessarily mean fun, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No. Again, even me enjoying challenges, there are some things where I'm like, wow, I want to drill
Well-
my skull right now.
I wanna bring the example of Hollow Knight with this.
Hmm.
I people who watch my run,
Rico.
I made a mini review on everything that.
Mhm.
I have a lot of feelings and opinions about Hollow Knight. I think Hollow Knight is an excellent game. Okay,
Yeah, me too.
I think Hollow Knight is
We
an
have a stuffed animal
excellent.
too.
You guys have Hollow Knight stuff too?
No,
she's
we
getting
just have
all
a
the
stuffed
game-related
animal.
stuffed
Yeah,
animals.
we're all part of it. Well, the entire part of
I,
Hollow Knight.
I have Groot all this here.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yay!
But like, I want to say that there is like stuff that happened in Hollow Knight that they remove a lot of elements of quality of life elements that actually just to
Mhm.
make it, just to introduce the concept of like, oh my god, you need to get everything, like that. I think actually absolutely disagree. That for example, even remove like you need to
The compass.
like there is like a charm system, which is basically gems. Like basically, you have a certain amount of a limited amount of slots that you can put like an extra passive, right? That will help you, depending on your playstyle, But the thing is, there are some of them actually are even a compass for the map, right? And I bring this point that actually makes me very unhappy is because usually Metroidvania is an expectation. I don't know if they were trying to be what's the word, subversive?
Subversive, yeah.
That is
Divergent.
like, oh my god,
That too.
this is a Metroidvania, but guess what? You actually have to use a compass if you want it. You actually have to discover you have to actually need to buy maps. Like even if I discover the area, it's not even shown on the map.
And you don't even know where you are on the map.
Like
that's
you
the
can't even
biggest
know where
issue.
you are on the map. You don't even have to get
That's
a
so
chance to
aggressive.
suck up the currency that they have to, like just to make it to use a slot for a charm, like so you can use other charms. Like what's the fucking point?
I feel like that's a double-edged sword because like the thing is with that is that like it's not like it's like a Super Metroid where everything's just a box like on the map. Like the rooms are somewhat uniquely designed. I still don't completely
They
agree
could have
with
made
it.
it the boxes,
Yeah.
right? The grid.
Yeah, like and if they would have done that, then it would have been like, well, yeah, how am I really supposed to tell where I am? But with each room being designed deliberately different and all the like tunnels, like for example, if you have the map and there's only one room where there's a door above you, door to the left, door to the right, and door below. And on the map you see that, you're like, okay, well I'm in that room, even if you don't have a compass. But I do feel like that is asking a bit much as a player.
Yeah, and it seems unnecessary. Like it's a regressive design decision because like it's taking this thing that we've like come to know and accept, like just knowing where you are in a game and just removing that and making that like an ability. Like what? I've never heard of that in like any game.
Well,
Either
that's what they
remove
were
it
going
completely,
for. Like,
or have it in the game. Or have it fully available to you all the time. I think.
yeah, like I do agree with that, but I sit where like I understand the design decision, but I don't agree with it. Like I don't think it's inherently stupid, but I think it's I do think it
artificial.
asks a lot of the player. What?
It's artificial, the decision, just to make it harder. Like make it like put a little bit of spice.
But
Like I don't care.
It's
You have
like
to put
charting out your own
spices.
map in like Etrian Odyssey, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
thing that they tout as a feature rather than like something that's been like a common thing to a player. Like why do I have to put in like work to this thing now when this has been like a thing since like the inception of the genre, right?
To go off of like the artificial difficulty thing, I actually agree with that. And in your opening statement, Dai, you said that
Howdy.
you think games are becoming more difficult, and I actually
They
think
are.
games are becoming easier because they are making the games on normal mode and then making the hard modes artificial. And so the games become harder because they're not creating the game based off of hard mode. They're creating it based off of an easy mode and then making it harder, which makes it even harder because you get those artificial difficulties, those things that don't make sense. And it's like, why is this hard? Why is this here? And so I think games are actually becoming easier, and that they're making the games based on easy mode, and then they're making them harder by adding things, by subtracting things that just don't make it feel naturally difficult, but make it feel like you are playing the game not in the game mode that it was made to be created.
Do you have a game
Yeah.
that works as an example for that?
I have to think about that one. But actually, the only game that I think of is Pokemon.
Yeah.
I think Pokemon's so much easier now than it was. And that's a grinding
I
aspect.
agree,
It's not quite like
but-
a difficulty level, but it's so much easier. And you as a player could make it harder by grinding yourself, but like you could go fight the final floor as soon as you have the availability and win. And I don't think that's not fun for me anymore. That's catered more towards kids. And I mean, Pokemon doesn't have a difficulty level, but
the direction that I'm trying to pull isn't necessarily that, games are exclusively getting harder, but it's more so a fact that there have been a few mainstream periods of time where video games are hard. Like, for example, the NES days, times the PS2 days, video games as a whole, like certain games are being designed to be hard. It's not that every game is, but I feel that like hard games, like not every game is hard, but hard games are back in like a mainstream setting as of like the 2010s. Because I feel like prior to that, the harder games that were being developed are a bit more niche. But now, like a lot of indie games are being designed to be deliberately difficult. Soulsborne titles are being designed to be deliberately difficult. And I'm not saying, like all games are doing this. Like, yeah, Pokemon's getting easier. But I'm saying like difficulty is becoming more like mainstream again in the sense of like, Super Meat Boy, very, very hard. Like, or a game that I played on stream a few weeks ago, Fury. That game is very difficult, and it is designed to be difficult.
Cuphead
there is
a
an
good-
easy mode,
Good
but
example too.
but the normal mode is hard. Like there is an easy mode, and again, I'm fine with that. You know, play on easy, that's fine. But they actually lock out the final boss if you play on easy in that game.
Really?
In
Really?
Cuphead, yeah, you cannot finish the game
final
if you
boss.
do
You
it.
cannot get the
Interesting.
secret ending.
And I think that's
if you
really
play on easy.
stupid,
That's
honestly.
so
I think that-
cheeky of them.
Yeah, like to be fair,
game
it's
is
the
this,
like
sorry?
secret ending,
Cuphead.
Cuphead.
but it's still
All right.
yeah. Cuphead is designed to be deliberately difficult.
Yeah.
At least like in
It's
the
trying to be
NES.
challenging because it is not hard. Again, it's the point that I brought again about Bloodborne and thing. It's a
Wow.
pace, it's a pacing and a dance, right?
But that
it's
doesn't
a
make
learning
it not
curve, too.
hard.
There's
Yeah,
some
it's
really unfair
challenging,
moments
challenging.
in Cuphead.
What I guess when I call hard, when I say challenging is that it is fairly balanced, right? If you
There's some
Okay,
unfair
but I
stuff
feel
in
like
Cuphead I
hard is
wanted
an
to bring
umbrella
up.
term for balanced and not balanced. Like if it's
Yeah.
hard.
well, that's why I don't call it hard. Like, it's
Well,
it's
but
challenging.
my point
well
is in
designed,
general, whether
right?
it's balanced or not, hard games are mainstream again. Like
The
I'm
thing
not
is
saying
that-
that they're all good.
No,
But
the
it's
thing is
true.
like I think there are games that they're like two aspects of this, like to support both your point and Twin's one point of there is like again evolution, how elements and gameplay elements actually can be adapted and can be be a given, or it can be and actually serve as a what's the opposite word of regression, as an evolution or as a
Yeah, that works.
Progression.
right as
Yeah, that too.
oh, thank you very much. Aggression, right? That you're like, okay, this makes sense to be in the game. This is something that that actually makes the game better by design, by the design of the mechanics. But there are also like, I think there is a fair balance out there of games like becoming like because of design becoming more accessible, which is the example of Pokemon. It's not that it becomes more easier. It's that there is challenge in different part of the games for different people, right? Like there's
Right.
people who come like because I want to get the badges. There's people who come to catch the Pokemon. There's people who come to get the perfect IB, to get the shinies, to beat the Elite Four and things like that, right? I think that maybe that's also maybe can be a negative of that accessibility aspect that you can bring to games because of evolution and because of change. But there's also the part of like, oh wow, I remember how games used to be hard. I'm glad they're making games hard again, or at least the option, to be hard when it's actually balanced and well designed and not artificially designed.
Can I ask
Yeah.
something about the Pokemon thing, Twinthwomp? So do you think Pokemon games are like they're easier or they're more convenient for
What
the
do you mean?
player?
Con-
As
Well, like,
convenient,
I wouldn't say
Convenient as in,
grinding
like-
is inherently hard. It's just obnoxious.
right?
Guy,
Because like the big things
for
that
the
changed
Twinthwomp.
between for like the Pokemon games is like the experience share is like a pretty massive change for the formula, right? In addition to that, how technical moves work. I believe from Generation 5, instead of it being like a one-time use item, you can like
Mhm.
use it across every Pokemon. Like, so in that regard, do you still think it's like it's easier or more
So,
convenient because of like, these
I think
change-
that
mechanic
goes in.
changes?
I think convenience and easiness in Pokemon anyway with the game mechanics are in tandem. Actually, I don't think there's. A
Yeah.
I
difference
actually
between
think
that.
there's a difference because in the Final Four it's easier.
Well, but I'm saying it is easier and it's convenient.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, yeah, they are more convenient. I don't think the convenience is a drawback of the difficulty of the game. I think, because for me, I mean, the whole I like the storyline of Pokemon and going up to fight the Final Four and going and fighting all the gym people and like you defeat the gym bosses in like the first try and you don't have to grind your Pokemon, you don't have to know strategy or anything like that. You just have to have Pokemon that's maybe 1 or 2 levels higher. And for me, I liked in the old Pokemon Heart Gold, which is my favorite Pokemon, that I had to actually work hard. I had to figure out if the gym leader is steel, I bring in the other type, or if they're fire, I bring in water. And it's just like, you don't see that as much in the Pokemon games. It's important, but it's not quite as important
But-
as it was.
But like, does part of the easiness tie into your familiarity with it as well, right? Because
Right.
like, I would assume that the series would probably get easier like the more of them that you play, right?
Yes, but
I
the
feel
Final
that
Four, I do not have to be level 70 when they're level 50 like it did
I
at
see.
Heart Gold.
I have a question
That's
for
a
you.
very real difference there.
Do you feel like you should have to be level 70 to fight the Final Four?
I think that there should be a little bit of a challenge. I'm not saying it has to be ridiculously hard. I'm not saying it's a grind and grind and grind.
Yeah.
I think that there should be. It shouldn't be that the first try I win. I want there to be maybe at least the second try I win. You know, something where it's like I have to figure it out. And I understand that, you know, more and more people are playing Pokemon, especially because of Pokemon Go. Like, the amount of people who play Pokemon has just grown exponentially. But I think that and I mean, this goes back to what you were saying about, like, what game was it? The game that outed its, like, main players or whatever? It kind of felt like Pokemon detracted away from the people who used to play Pokemon just to appeal to the people who have never played Pokemon before.
Let me ask you a question, Tim. Do you think the product of you thinking is easier is just the product of you being better at the game?
No.
Playing across the years, you know more?
Yeah, I kind of
I actually haven't played all of the Pokemon games. I played Heart Gold, and I played Omega Ruby. I've never watched Pokemon.
No, I mean, better at the game, I mean that you know the rock, paper, scissors mechanic, right? You know,
the types and all that.
Type beat type, you know, like you need to level up. I guess.
Well, think about like the newest ones that have come out on the Switch and everything. Like, what you start with is ridiculously overpowered.
Yeah.
Like, I think everybody can agree that you're starting Pikachu and Eevee in the new games. I think somebody
You get like new moves,
too.
right?
Like, they are so overpowered, which generally does make the game easier because you skip that beginning learning curve because you've got this super beefy Pokemon now.
It's like getting Mewtwo or the legendaries, right? It's like guaranteed to win with that Pokemon.
And the problem with that is that you can go back to the first argument of having the difficulty levels. With the new Pokemon, that's all you have. You don't have the option to make it harder. There's no way to do that for yourself unless you set your own personal challenges outside of defeating the final
Going
four.
PvP, actually. Real PvP.
Right, yeah. So, like, there's no option there. The games, for Pokemon at least, the games have just become more accessible and have, you know, defeated the purpose of being challenging for some people.
Especially with Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, because you don't even have to capture Pokemon. Or you don't have to battle Pokemon, you just capture them. And
Which is actually, I like that.
You like
that.
Personally. I know you like that. I don't
because
like it.
I think there is I mean, I used to love turn-based games, and they create, like, nowadays it's not the same, right? For me, right? I don't have the time to engage in battle, wait for it to load, choosing my things to attack, attacking, winning, getting out. You know, I don't have time for that anymore. You know, I don't want to, like, level up by, you know, throwing. I remember how inconvenient it was. Like, wow, I don't have experience share. I need to, like, level up each Pokemon individually, and that it just ended up with a level 100 Blastoise, and all my other Pokemon are level 40.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Then that fits with our original point that they should have different difficulty levels for people who have different times for games, because then if they did 2 Pokemon difficulty levels, you could choose easy and you could choose hard, and then easy is you get to catch all the Pokemon, you don't have to battle them, and the final 4 is level 50 and it's really easy to fight them. Or you could do hard, where you have to battle the Pokemon, you have to grind, and you have to fight the final 4 multiple times to win. And I think that's the point. I think accessibility doesn't mean the game has to be easy. Accessibility means offering options for people who want to play at different levels.
Which Pokemon has, right? It has different ways to play for different people at different levels. Right?
Not the new one.
Not built in the game. A lot of
not
it is.
Not the new one.
Like,
I have
self-imposed
to fight.
challenge.
I mean,
like, if you want the game to be harder,
we need to close soon. So, closing statement on this. Please.
Closing statement. Okay.
Yeah, because we gotta wrap this one up.
Now, I do agree with a lot of what everybody said. Like, especially, like, in terms of raw numbers, Pokemon has gotten easier, and I feel like I try not to be too narrow-minded when it comes to what I like in video games and, like, what is good and what is bad, and it's very hard to make, like, objective critique. But I do feel like all of you have made fantastic points about, you know, what is really, like, a positive experience for people. And I do generally agree that, you know, difficulty options are a very, very good thing to have, especially for, you know, in the case of somebody who doesn't have the time to do whatever it may be, or just basically that. And yeah, thank you everybody for your input. I was really excited to talk about this.
Yeah, it was a good topic. It was a great
Yeah, it's something
topic.
that I like to bring up
more.
on stream, and I feel like we had a really nice chat about it.
Twimber to onboard Lee, do you have any closing thoughts? You good?
I covered it.
Go.
No. As long as it's difficult.
Sorry if I interrupted anybody.
No,
That's okay.
We are arriving. I know everyone's getting a little bit tingly. We're all like getting tired, but we have a little bit one more topic.
I worked hard on this topic.
For this talk show,
Good
and
buddy.
I think it's pretty good. So let's. I'm gonna let Lee take it away.
All right, so my topic is unlockables in video games. So here's what I think. I think that unlocking things in games is something that should take skill. And I also think that some modern games have started to tie unlocking things to simply be a time sink rather than playing well on the player's part. Why is it that developers feel the need to shift things so that skill isn't incentivized?
Okay, can you elaborate a little bit more with examples?
Sure. And one of my biggest examples related to the time sink. So I'm a fan of Rainbow Six Siege. I want that to be known. I played this game a lot. I played that game for 700 plus hours, and I played Overwatch for over 1,000 hours. But my problem with Siege is that I have played this for 700 hours, and I don't have every operator. That is a problem to me.
Oh man.
That is absolutely
Do you have the
absurd.
standard one?
No
Like
one-
the $15?
Pretty good.
Yeah. I think it is absurd.
No,
I got the
but
standard one.
Yeah.
the thing is, now, like obviously, for those who don't know, operators in Rainbow Six Siege are released on a yearly cycle where, like 3 times a year, 4 times a year, I forget, operators are released. Around what point would you say you have like all the operators up to? Because you got to keep in mind 2 were just released. But I do.
How many operators there are right now in Switch?
Oh.
20?
Like more.
No,
way more,
more
way
than that.
more.
There's like
That's
20
right.
on each side. We have attackers and defenders.
I'm missing like 5 or something like
Missing
that.
like 5. Okay, then that's an issue with the game rather than your own.
So I think
Right,
that
and like it's not
Rainbow-
skill based, and like it just, I don't know. I find it super disrespectful to the player's time, right? Because like a lot of people like mention like that, like games like I guess like maybe older games like that require like a lot of time to be good at, but like this doesn't require skill. Like this requires like me sitting at a desk for that many hours in my life to just get something that I should have had like maybe at like the 20 or 30 hour mark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
So-
a good difference between game essential unlockables and non-essential unlockables. I think everything that is essential, like operators and the ability to play all of the different characters and get good at all of the different characters, shouldn't take 700 hours to unlock. Like
Yeah.
the skins and stuff though, like you shouldn't be able to have all of those for a while. Like that's
Right, like
that's what keeps the
Overwatch.
longevity of the game is, giving you things that you don't have still. But I think, time sync for operators' sake and everything like that is a little bit ridiculous.
I think I just want to clarify real fast that there's 3 different versions of Rainbow Six you can buy. You can buy the $15 pack.
I got the
where
$15
every time,
one.
every time you buy an
I
operator,
know it
the
takes
next
longer for that.
operator in that thing is more expensive. You can buy the $30 one, which is the basic package. All operators cost 11,000 renown, which is renown you get every time you play a game and you win or you lose. You get a specific amount of renown. Or you can buy like the $60 pack, which is just like insane. You get like extra stuff for it. But I own the $30 pack, so it only takes me 11,000 renown to buy an operator. I think that if they're offering a $15 pack, that it should allow you to buy the operator at the same price as the $30 pack, but the $30 pack should have something else to it. I think it's unfair to
I
make
like
it
the idea of
someone
that.
who doesn't
Yeah.
have $15 extra in that exact moment to make them have to pay more for operators. I think that's unfair.
Can
I
you up-
lucked out.
Can you
Yeah.
upgrade
Someone
from
gifted it
15
to me.
bucks to 30 bucks first?
Nope, you can't.
No,
you can't.
once
Once you're
you
stuck with it,
have
you're
it,
stuck with it.
that's-
And when
yeah.
I bought it, I
You
didn't know
cannot.
that it was too late.
Yeah,
No,
well,
you
once
can't.
you
It's
bite that
stupid.
bullet, you have to play it on a different Steam account if you want to fix it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Or
and
what,
it's
man?
And a
unacceptable.
full $30 for
Not to mention,
45. Yeah.
year passes are $30, and then the year pass you get the operator as soon as it drops. But like that's
You get it
another.
before it
That's a
drops,
whole
actually.
other system of rewards
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
give.
So
Now,
can we?
something I want to comment on is that, what Lee talks about is actually something that I have a big issue with in the gaming industry in general, is that games are no longer about the game itself. Games are now more of like a service. Like the games as a service model is an attempt to make, games have lots of longevity, but for mostly like a padded reason. Like in the case of Siege, they're adding 2 operators, every quarter as a way to keep it like fresh. But I feel like as a player, obviously not everybody agrees with this, I would rather just have like a sequel so I don't have to spend 700 hours on out of everything.
Yeah.
Like,
I would also prefer that.
Like the games as a service model, like I'm not going to go super into this because it's way off topic.
When you have a game like WoW and you have put like, let's say 5,000 hours and you have grinded everything or every piece of content that comes out, do you think they should make a WoW 2 and lose everything you already done?
No, but that's an MMO. This is a shooter that is operator based.
Oh,
MMOs,
because you say games nowadays.
No, my bad. I should have clarified. But when it comes to the games as a service model, MMOs were the original games as a service. But that's how they've been designed since the beginning. I don't feel like a first-person shooter, where it's, operator-based especially, should make Lee put in 700 hours to not even have everything. Because in an MMO, you're not expected to have everything. You typically stick to, one general archetype, and that's fine. I've put about 300 hours into Final Fantasy XIV, and I'm where I want to be. Lee spent 700 hours on a first-person shooter.
Yeah, and
not.
You prefer to say that Siege is just unfairly balanced?
No, hold on. Before that, I want to mention there's something that I really want to make clear. In addition to all the things that were mentioned, this is a premium product, right? Like, I paid money for this. Like, in League, I spent like a similar amount of time. I still don't have every character in that, but whatever. It's a free-to-play game. They need to incentivize like getting money from that. But if I'm paying money for a product and I don't have everything by that time point, like, come on now.
Well, and this goes in line exactly what Thwomp was saying, that things that are essential to the gameplay, like operators, should not be that expensive. Right. Unlockables like skins and other stuff which you can buy or you can win through loot boxes, I think is a fair form of rewarding people because they can either buy the skin if they really want it, or they can win it through an alpha pack, and it's non-essential to the gameplay, and you don't absolutely need to have the beautiful diamond skin on your gun in order to play the game well. So I think it's fair to compare unlockables that are essential versus unlockables that are either what is it called?
Cosmetic.
Cosmetic.
Or like
I was gonna say domestic for some reason.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, like
you guys think Overwatch is balanced in that manner then?
A lot more so than Siege. Like I don't prefer Overwatch as a game, but I mean at least it gives you all the tools to play and learn, because like you got to keep in mind you could be playing Rainbow Six Siege and you cannot potentially get the operator that could be your fully most comfortable operator for 700 hours. Like
it's ridiculous.
He might not even have his top main yet. He won't know.
Maybe I'm a Maestro main.
Let me ask you a question.
I wanted to mention something related to Overwatch, right? Like, before I was thinking of like talking about like the idea of loot boxes and how like, maybe it's like kind of exploitable, that like it's an absurd time sink, but I don't want to talk about that, right? The big thing I wanted to mention, so I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Overwatch League skins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so the inclusion of these, in addition to 2 other skins, the ones with the Genji and Tracer one, I can't express how frustrated I was with these, because prior to then, every single item, with like the exception of like one BlizzCon thing, was obtainable through the game by gameplay. And these were skins, these were golden weapons, which I think are a fantastic addition to the game. But the only way to get these skins specifically, you can't get these skins by playing the game. You have to either purchase them with currency, or alternatively, you have to watch the Overwatch League. And I really don't like this idea that you're disincentivized to not play the game to unlock something like that.
Yeah.
That's not cool to me.
Yeah, I think that's just like a weird marketing thing that didn't work out so well.
I actually don't mind that one.
Interesting.
I don't mind it because you get Warframe does like drops like that. If you watch Warframe things, they give you loot drops for watching their show on Friday or whatever. And I think that, you know, you can still access the skin. It's not like they were limiting it because you can still buy it. But I think it's not unfair to say these are League skins, and the way you get it is that you watch Overwatch League. I don't think that's that out there. I think it's
why
not.
can't I play the game to unlock it like everything else in the game?
And you gotta
Which
keep
is
in
what I
mind,
want to do.
like,
I want to get better at the game and get cool things along the way while playing the game. Now
So,
watching this
how
thing that
long
Blizzard's
do you
trying
have to
market.
watch the League? Is it like you have to watch 50 hours of League, or is it 1 hour? Could you put it on
No,
another
it's
stream?
not an hour. It's definitely like a lot more than that. I don't know the conversion rate, but like it.
Can you leave the
I'm
tab
gonna be
open?
the guy that says it's the principle.
Yeah, could you leave the tab open and just be lurking? I think it's
You can
not
do
like
that,
it's
but,
saying you have to watch it. It's saying you have to have been there in the League thing.
They
to
just
get
want
the
views.
League skit.
Right,
They do
get
yeah,
want
views.
views. Like it's such an obvious marketing gimmick. But like it's the principle of it, right? Like I can just keep the tab open, but like it's the fact that like I'm getting it, unlocking something in a game isn't happening in the game. You're unlocking in real life, quote unquote.
I feel like
Or at least,
unlockables.
yeah. If they give you
Uh,
something outside of the game, it should be like you get 500 coins.
Yeah.
If you
And
watch
like
the-
I feel
right?
with unlockables, we're slowly like kind of moving away from them, which is something that I'm sad about. I have two examples to bring up here. Like the remake for Resident Evil 2 came out. I personally love it, but you know, skins that you used to be able to obtain by playing the game are now locked behind DLC. So you have to buy them. When you know in the original Resident Evil 2, you beat the game, you get cool skins, woot, it's an unlockable. Or
You
in
earn it.
terms of like Halo 3, you had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get like recon armor or whatever it may be. And then for Halo Reach, that became a pre-order bonus. So you aren't even really doing anything to unlock it. And for me, again, I'm somebody who likes to do things to be satisfied with my video games, but I do feel that like unlockables should be like unlockables. Even if it's not hard, I feel like if I would rather be rewarded for doing something small rather than, you know, spending $10 extra or making sure I buy the game before I even know if it's good.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is fair.
I feel like that's a really painful way of marketing, because like, you know, in Halo 3, recon armor was like the, hey, you can tell this person is at least somewhat good at the game because they got it. In Reach, it's like, oh well, they shelled out money before the game was even out. Or in Resident Evil 2, it's, you know, here's content that they used to offer for free that was really commonplace in older video games, and now you don't get something like that. And the
Yeah.
same thing applies to Devil May Cry 5, which I love, but deluxe edition content and pre-order bonuses are a really poor way of doing in-game unlockables, in my opinion.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think, and it's such a consumerism thing
Yeah.
now, which kind of sucks, like, because it defeats the purpose. I want to make a side point saying that I don't think all unlockables should necessarily be skill based. I think,
No, I agree.
like, yeah, I just, because I think the original topic was
Lee's original
saying
point.
that an unlockable should take skill. I think certain things should take skill, like if there's an item in the game that would make your gameplay like a little bit easier, or like
Like in Resident Evil 2. with
right,
the
so like
gun.
taking an extra step and making it a little bit harder to make it a little bit easier later is a really good way to do things, but that there should still be unlockables and a reward system that doesn't involve, you know, something that's really hard. But I do agree with your original point, Lee, that most things that are time sinks usually just
No.
Yeah.
suck.
Time
Like,
sync
I
for
love-
unlockables suck.
Like I
Well,
love the
time syncs
idea
are-
for like options, but man, sometimes games take it too far, right? Like for Super Smash
Yeah.
Bros. Melee, you need to play the game for 20 hours to get Mewtwo. Either
I
that or do
remember
like
that.
700 versus matches. That's
Yeah,
absurd to me, man.
That's some heck.
What
Was
did
it
you just-
700?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or
you just leave
it's
it on.
a lot.
You just leave it on overnight or something.
Yeah, and for like other characters, you have to be like different challenges. Like for Falco, you have to be like what, 15-man melee or something like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is that
But, like-
I never thought that really considering like you know, there's like different ways. Obviously, like you're gonna get Mewtwo sooner or later just by playing the game. Though, like it's not 700 hours. Like 20 is
yeah,
a
no,
big
it's not that
difference,
hard.
right?
It's a
It's
real
20 hours,
kicker.
but it's either that or a certain amount of versus matches, right? And it's either like it's somewhere from 500 to 1,000 for like some of these characters.
See,
It's a
but
lot.
I think some time sync things are okay when those like either items or characters that are introduced later are meant to be used later.
Yeah.
Like something that's like if you need to do a certain amount of things in a game to get an item or like a certain weapon that would be absolutely overpowered or ridiculous just to have right off the bat, that kind of time sink is worth it in game development, and makes, you know, gives you a goal and gives you something as a reward system for the time that you've spent in this game.
It's like the 14 hearts for the Master Sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But the time sink comes from like you going like out of your way to like find all these things, right? Like it takes both time and skill in that instance, you know, and I'm okay with that.
The thing is with like Mewtwo is you have to keep in mind, Smash is a fighting game, and like, you know, somebody's fun can be, you know, obviously not like limited, but I don't feel like it should be absurdly hard to unlock characters in a fighting game, because you know,
20 hours is hard.
For some people, yeah, I know some people that can
it's
only
like unnecessary, right?
Limiting on overnight for a couple days.
Well, but you need to be playing. Like, it's not just leave the game open. You need to be playing matches.
Yeah,
And Melee, you could leave the game open. Yeah.
Did that work for you?
Time based.
Okay, well, like
if
then
it's
in
only
terms of
time
other
based,
games,
not if it's gameplay based.
Well, if it's gameplay based, I'm talking like
the game design decision. If you're just leaving it on overnight, right? Like that's not what it was intended to be, you know?
Yeah, like my brother works a lot, like a lot, and he only has like 4 hours any free time a week. So when something takes, you know, 20 hours, you know, that can be a lot. And again, like for Mewtwo, it's acceptable if you can leave the game open. But in terms of lead situation for like Rainbow Six, you know, 4 hours a week. Imagine if, you know, you had to unlock every operator in Siege based on that rate.
Mm-hmm.
If that's gameplay, you can't leave the game open for that.
Yeah, like you have to be actively playing Siege, like just to even get renowned for that game.
Yeah.
And they don't give generous amounts.
That goes back to whether the unlockable is necessary, the unlockable is not, right? I mean, if it's necessary for him to have these operators, and it's not necessary for him to have these skins, so I think it's not super out there to ask someone to put like 20 hours in to get a skin. It'd be really unnecessary for someone to ask 20 hours for you to get an operator. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But 20 hours. 20 hours isn't. I mean, 20 hours. It could be a lot for some people. It's true.
I could beat
but
at least 3 games in 20 hours.
But like 20 hours. I mean, 20 hours is 5
Hollow
weeks
Knight.
for some people, or overnight for some people. Yeah. So it's just like it depends on the person, and I think that's the toughest part about unlockables is that if it's skill based, whether it's time based, it's different for each individual person. And I think that's really hard to like define what the good unlockable is when everyone has specific situations that either allow them or deter them from being able to get them.
The way I feel about unlockables is whether it takes a time sink or skill. I just think it should be like fun to get them. Like
and like, that's the most important thing, right? Are they fun to get? Are they fun to use?
Like are they fun? Like, is it fun to get? Is it fun to use? Like, for example, like just playing through Resident Evil 2. It's considered pretty fun unless you don't like horror games, or you don't like, you know, Resident Evil games, and you get rewarded with, you know, extra guns to use. That was fun. Hopefully, if you like that game.
I like the raccoon hat.
Yeah, but like certain games like make you jump through, you know, hoops to give you something that, you know, maybe won't be worth it. Like, I love Metal Gear, but you have to beat the game with, I believe, a Foxhound rank, which involves not killing anybody, being super stealthy.
Great challenge.
Yeah, it's a fantastic challenge. But then it gives you something that really isn't worth it. It gives you the camo.
No, that's subjective.
But look, if you get it after doing the hardest challenge, then what's the point?
Yeah,
right?
then like you can only use it for regular runs.
Why were you playing it like over and over just because you want to be rewarded, right?
No, I agree, and I've used it. I just think that like I wish, like, I like rewards, but I feel like if you're gonna give an end game reward, give me a good situation to use it in.
A good example of like skill-based reward system is actually Tenshu. In Tenshu, you unlock different items based on how well you did on the level. So if you got Grandmaster, they'll unlock like the little poison dart thing or something, or like the poisoned rice balls. So it's like, you know, I think that's a good example of skill-based, because you're still unlocking things as you go along, even if you don't get Grandmaster. But if you get that Grandmaster, you get that really special item that just makes it a little bit easier for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair way. I think that's a very fair way to allow unlockables for different levels of people without excluding people from earning things and it's not excluding cosmetics because it's just Tenchu and you're running around killing people, so it doesn't really matter. But
You know, the best part about that example, Thwimp, is that it also incentivizes like the player to improve too, right? Because that gives like an active drive to say like, hey, I did pretty decent on this, but maybe I'm gonna try a little harder on the next one.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and Tenchu's kind of nice because you can replay the level and it's all patterns and stuff, so it's really easy to get better at it. I used
Plus,
to.
it's just fun.
I used to have muscle memory Tenchu. I could do Grandmaster on every level. It was ridiculous, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that goes back to the point where if an unlockable is, fun to get, which I do think in the case for Metal Gear, then it's, it's validated. But like I would like to have like a use for those unlockables,
Yeah.
Like I would like if after you got, that the camo for Metal Gear, if it gave you, another mode or like a level to use it. Like I know that's not what they would do. But it would just be a nice little tidbit and I would enjoy it. Like it's not necessary. But like in the messenger.
It's like getting the Ultima weapon after you had to fight like the boss that would require you to fight it, right? Because like that was the hardest thing, but like the next thing after is like a baby thing,
Yeah, and like for me, like the messenger, like that's why I love New Game Plus. Like if you do all the medallions in the messenger, which are basically you have to go through a challenge mode, get the medallion, you get a bouncy shuriken, which is pretty fun to use.
It was totally worth it, actually.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Because there's a New Game Plus, it's totally worth it. But I feel when a game doesn't have like a New Game Plus option, then certain unlockables like that go without, a use. Like, once you beat Metal Gear on European Extreme, there's no step up.
Exactly, because that's like the plateau.
Name, European Extreme.
I love it. It's a good one.
Any closing statement, guys, for this? I do have something to say actually about Metal Gear. Actually, it reminds me, like I do think, for example, there's a contrast that I want to make between Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 is that the bandana is actually worth it for me, but the Patriot is not.
No, right? I agree.
When you get the Patriot, you cannot even use the Patriot against the boss.
Yeah.
Right? Which is actually a little bit like, like...
Well, then what's the point, right?
Like, what's the point?
Wait,
you know what I mean?
the Patriot and MGS, do you not get to keep that for NG+?
No, you get to keep it.
You do, but the thing is, like, the boss, you have to kill the boss by CQC, basically.
Oh, the final boss, that's what you meant.
The boss,
by
the CQC.
Yeah.
The big actual boss, yes.
Yeah, that's her name, for the uninformed.
Which is like, so I think, actually, that makes me think about it. However, that CQC fight is actually absolutely legendary.
It's amazing. I love MGS3. That's another one of my favorite games.
But I think makes me think like, well, maybe if I want to get to that fight, like it would be fun just to go guns blazing with the Patriot because I will have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess like, yeah. Any closing points?
I was gonna say like, Donna, you brought up the idea that like, you should at least have like an opportunity to use it, and I was gonna say, despite the confusion needed to get this power up, in my opinion, one of my favorite power-ups / unlockables in gaming are both the Hadouken and the Shoryuken in Mega Man X 1 and 2. And I love them for a very specific reason. One, because you have to like, it takes a good amount of like, effort to get.
Yeah.
Two, you're able to use it in an environment that is conducive for them. You can completely obliterate every single boss with both of those things.
Oh, it's just
and
so good.
It is one of the most satisfying unlockables I've ever seen in the game. And I want to see more of that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that the amount of time that you put is not crazy. The amount of challenge is fair, and it's actually absolutely worth it to get it. Like the thing is like
it's fun.
If you are good enough, also something that I experienced on my run, 100% run that I didn't stream, is that if I'm not good enough to avoid the first hit, to not like connect the first Hadouken, then I can lose. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I need to be also good and
skill
put skill to use it in a boss and actually finish, because you can use it on Sigma too,
Right.
Yeah.
And my closing statement is like, the Hadouken is awesome, and I guess something that kind of ties to this is, in DMC5, there is the Mega Buster, but instead of unlocking it in a cool way like you do in Mega Man, obviously you do in Mega Man, but like how you would unlock the Hadouken, you gotta pay $15, buddy. Like, come on.
The struggle, the cross promotion.
Like, put that in the game, man. Like, if they would have had the Mega Buster be an actual unlockable rather than DLC, it would have completely changed the way I look at it. But
they did that in Dead Rising. You can get it in that game.
I did. I got the full suit. But yeah, that's about all I have to say on Unlockables. Is that they're cool, and I wish there were more of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Going
with
in a
you.
more fair way, yeah. Okay. Guys, we have come to an end. And first of all, before I actually go through the whole outro section, I want to say first thank you for a lot for being in the show. I appreciate your time, and I think it was super fucking dope. Right? That's the first thing. Second thing is, viewers, if you have questions now, I'm gonna go. This is what I'm gonna do. I would like to go to everyone who commented. Give thank you, for commenting and showing up and things like that. And this is the time to write questions for the guests or Lee or me if you guys have questions right now. Can be specific about the topics. It should be a quick answer too because we're actually closing. However, it can be about the stream too. It doesn't matter. Like, please, can I have a mod link? Actually, I can do it. I have a command here. So yeah, go give a follow to all of them. Right, I'm gonna go through the comments now. So first of all, thanks Adrian for the raid and starting. Soso for showing up. X closeout. Well, Dice Space is right here. Right? Overnerd. Who else we have? We have Soso. We have Tomoe Yamagawa. Hectic Hazard. My man. Oh my God, Hectic. Thank you also for the gifts for the sub.
Yes,
Gift
thanks,
to
Hectic.
Thanks a lot. Let's see who else. Twin Plum, they're already here, right? That's crazy.
Are they?
Let's see. We had some competition. Oh, Leathery.
That's one of my friends.
Dope. Let me see. I'm just scrolling through the thing, guys. I'm sorry. Thanks a lot for the bits. I forgot to actually reduce the sound of the bits, but thank you. Avex CS, thanks a lot for showing up and commenting. Adrian, I already said Adrian, right? I think I'm
You
just
guys got any
guys.
questions for us?
Demur, DX, also MacGyver. MacGyver, what's up, my man?
He was on our last one.
Yeah, Harry Mason 2000. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the bits. Let me see. MacGyver's also taunting. Yes. Classic joke. Thanks a lot, my dude. Appreciate it. Let me see. Yep, I think we got everything. Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. It was great. Let me see if we have any questions. Is that blood?
Whoa.
It is blood.
Where?
Your bits were too loud. They're complaining about their ears.
I'm so sorry. I actually forgot to lower it. This is your own fault for donating bigs, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, you brought this upon yourself.
So what I'm gonna do now is give each of you a channel or the opportunity to promote yourself, whatever you guys want. It can be your channel, it can be a project you are doing, and Lee, I want to start with you this time.
Hey guys, I'm Just Lee Belmont, your noble vampire hunter. I do a lot of Castlevania speedruns. That's kind of what I'm known for. That's my gimmick, quote unquote. I'm super happy to have been on this talk show. I'm happy to have made some new friends. Thwimp, it's been a pleasure working with you guys. I'm super happy that I got to bring my buddy Dagan along. That was super cool. And I am incredibly grateful to be a part of this talk show. So,
awesome, thanks a lot, Lee.
Hi, I'm Espresso, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be here. I love talk about video games, meeting people, and just being able to be here, because it's great. And man, I don't really have the words for just how happy I am that I get to do things like this. And I really love streaming, and I hope I get to make an impression on more people in the future and just keep going and doing my thing. And I'd like to thank each of you for just being fantastic.
I'm very happy to have you. You have also a YouTube channel you mentioned before?
I do have a YouTube channel.
Go for it. Promote that shit. Yeah, plug it.
And I make video essays about various games. I did one on Devil May Cry 2, Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Kingdom Hearts 3. I also made a video essay on Into the Spider-Verse, which is a fantastic movie.
That was a good
I'm
movie.
gonna have to go watch that. Thank you for
Next
saying
podcast.
that.
No.
Hey.
And yeah, that's me. And tomorrow, me and Lee are streaming together.
There you go.
That's true. We're gonna wrap up Resident Evil 5 professional mode. Get ready to see us suffer, guys.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh
Thanks
boy.
a lot. Very thank you for coming to the show as always. Queen Van Plum, you have the floor.
Alright.
Alright, we're Thwimp Thwomp. I'm Thwimp.
Glad.
And we stream on Twitch. That's basically all we do. We're variety streamers. We play a lot of different games. The majority of our stream is us communicating with our viewers and having a lot of fun talking to them. There's a lot of screaming.
We're obnoxious and loud, so if you like that, this is
Yeah,
the place,
that's
right?
the place to go. We've been streaming for like 2 years now, and so we've grown like an awesome community, and everyone's really welcoming. So we welcome you all to come join us.
Yeah, our favorite part about Twitch is doing shit like this, where you get
Yeah.
to meet awesome people and have
Meeting
like
everyone and
really great conversations. Like this was a
Growing
lot
a
of fun. I
community.
really enjoyed, debating and listening to you guys, and you know,
Yeah.
I learned a lot today
Controversial.
too.
This
Yeah.
is cool, yeah.
Controversial.
More
We'd be
perspectives, you know.
heated.
Yeah, it's great. It's been really great. So
yeah,
Awesome.
you guys are awesome. So
Thanks a lot for coming to the show. So I'm gonna start from there. Like I know Queen Van Plum, IRL. I've met them, like we're friends, and I think they're, I have been following them for a while, and I think they have a great channel. Please go to check them out, give them a follow. They're super dope, and
Thank you.
they're fucking hilarious, actually. Low key, right? And then Lee, I have met Lee since November. Lee's basically my co-host. He's my co-star of the show, and I respect Lee immensely. I think he's a
Oh,
great
you flatter
gamer.
me.
I think he's a great gamer. I think he actually is very well spoken, and I do respect. I met Lee in real life too. We're buddies now. We go way back.
Yeah.
And I made that
What an
espresso.
amazing experience.
Yeah, it was. Spoiler alert, guys. I met Dai through Lee. Dai has been actually pretty amazing. Remember, Dai messaged me after we had the first meeting
Yeah.
on Discord. He said, "I'm not gonna disappoint you." I said, "Don't worry, son."
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Andy.
adorable.
I love that.
Man, you gotta keep in mind, I'm like the 17-year-old nerd out here, man. I want to make friends. Come on.
You're like young Dante. You know what I mean, with black hair.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
title.
Yeah, so guys, thanks a lot for everything. So I want to talk about a little bit real quick about what's the purpose of the podcast. And basically the purpose of the talk show is that I wanted to bring, like, the thing is, like, I have a problem with seeing people do things, and I'm like, why I'm not doing that? I should do it. So I just decided to have a talk show, and organically, Lee grew to be my co-host, and I have been very happy to have him, and I think he's happy to be here too. And I
humbled me.
think the purpose of it is just bringing small communities together, and this is basically what we're doing. I know, like, and I like to bring, like, a big contrast. For example, Dai mentioned before, he's not even an affiliate, and I think also that's part of it. Like, but we all are. But the things that we're all part of the small communities. Like, I think there's a lot of value in this, and besides meeting new people and networking and things like that, I think it's great. And there's also so if you want to participate too, like, we're always open. I remember the first podcast that we did, MacGyver showed up and he said, "Hey, I have opinions, I want to talk," and say, "Hey, yo, let's do the podcast, the talk show." And he was in the second episode. So if you want to actually join the Discord, please join. We have all the collaborations there. I started streaming doing Game Boys. I actually run a store on Etsy modifying Game Boys. You guys, things like, I started streaming that, and then transition to streaming more, just normally, like what we do. I still have the store. A subscriber gets discounts, by the way. But also, yeah, so join the Discord. There's giveaways happening. We have mini reviews there. We have social feed. We have collaborations. We have a lot of content going. So join if you can. I will appreciate it. And also, part of this being small communities, the music that you have heard today, at least part of it, is also by one of our community members, which is Vince Nitro. And I would like Adrian to actually link his SoundCloud. I have some copy here that I cannot miss. Actually, so basically, I made a deal with Vince and said, "Yo, I want to use your music, but I don't have a lot of money." I said, "No problem. I can donate the music as long as you want, plug my podcast." And I say, "Absolutely, I'll fucking do that." Like, Ansi's podcast is it's actually a true crime podcast called The Trail Went Cold, available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. and I have a Drillin, which he just posts his SoundCloud. He has a lot of different type of music, but the music that I enjoy, that I do play on my stream is this lo-fi stuff. I also want to thank you, DJ Cutman. He's also the other person. Like one thing that he has, I don't know him in person, but I play both his music on this Nitro, and I want to give him credit too for that. Next podcast, it's March 25th, 9 p.m. Again, it's a Monday too. We already have people logged on. We already have some ideas of what things we want to talk about. I hope to see you guys there. Thanks a lot, everyone, and have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
See ya.
Oh, we're leaving the call now.
Ah.